This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
What is going on, everyone? Hope you had a great Christmas, happy holidays, and happy Hanukkah to all of our Jewish friends as well as the 8 days continues. Great to be with you after a few days off. And obviously, we hope that you had a wonderful time getting off work for a couple days with the family, eating tons of food, exchanging gifts, and taking in what is some gorgeous weather. And man, as we'll get to right away with Michael Remis, what a way to get into the holidays officially with that gift from the Winnipeg Jets. And the performance of Mark Scheifele, Kyle Connor, Gabriel Velarde, and the Jets in the Monday afternoon game against the Toronto Maple Leafs. One of the most entertaining wins of the season, and you put a bow on it for Jet fans on Monday. It was a heck of a lot of fun. We'll touch on that. I'm glad that we're on today because I don't want that game to get missed in the annals of this season on WST, and I know many Jet fans are still fired up about it, but the team is back. They are on the practice ice as we speak right now. And some news. Dylan Coghlan has been recalled, which probably indicates that the team's going to be without Hayden Fleury for a little while. Logan Stanley, of course, still up in the air. We'll look to maybe get an update on him at some point throughout the show after Scott Arniel speaks. But some great news today. The big guy, Dylan Samberg, back on the ice today, skating with the team for the first time since breaking his foot in November. So that is definitely some good news. And listen, the Winnipeg Jets, after going through that insane part of their schedule with 15 games in different cities in a row, are back for some home cooking. Now, tomorrow night against the Ottawa Senators, Monday against Nashville, and then a quick turnaround and a New Year's Eve game in Colorado against the Avalanche. And then the team comes back for the majority of the month of January, kicking off an 8-game homestand on January 2nd against the Ducks. So lots of Jets to get to. We had a big Christmas day in the National Football League where the Chiefs and Ravens flexed their muscles. We'll touch on that. Lee Hacksaw Hamilton's going to join us. And of course, the World Juniors are underway. Now, the World Juniors are in Ottawa, so a perfect time to get Alex Adams on with us. Talk a little bit about the kickoff of the World Junior Tournament, and Canada does play Latvia later on today. Don't forget, new draw coming up for the Hockey Canada, Hockey Manitoba 50-50. The next one is on the 31st, so you can get your tickets for that right now at hockeymanitoba.myshopify.com. We'll tell you about that a little bit later on. But a full slate today, and our pal Jeff Hamilton coming on as well. Looking forward to talking to the Hammer about where the Jets are at, and of course, the Bombers looking into the new year. Just before we bring in Michael Remis, a huge thanks to our wonderful sponsors that make this show happen each and every day. As I mentioned, that Hockey Canada Ultimate 50-50 draw is on right now. The next draw is on New Year's Eve. Watch those pots grow as we get through the World Junior Hockey Championship, so jump on that. Of course, Princess Auto, Coolbet Canada, Lock Shop returns next week over at Edmonton Sports Talk. The Winnipeg Jets and fansfirst.ca, Rollies Transfer, Manitoba Battery, Canadian Club, Wallace & Wallace, F Apparel, Little Brown Jug, Royal Sports, and of course, Boston Pizza. Welcome to everybody in chat that's joining us. Great to see you all back out. I hope you had a great holiday, and welcome back to the program. Michael Remis, how was it in the Remo household the last few days?
Yeah, it was a solid couple days. Nice to have some time off work. Spent a day with the kids. Did a little tobogganing. There was some gift exchange. Actually, Hacksaw, we gave him a couple gifts the other day, and I gave my son a Scheifele jersey. And I guess he had just opened some Lego or something, and he gets the jersey. And he's not huge. I'm trying to force him into skating and hockey, but he doesn't really like it. And he's like, a jersey? Jersey's not a present. And I felt broken as a father. It was like when, when Lisa tells Ralph she doesn't want to go, and you can see the moment his heart rips in half. Hearing him say a jersey is not a present, that one hurt. That one hurt.
I tell you what, Evan will learn moving forward. He'll see his buddies with him, and then he'll realize, wait a second, I've got a cool Mark Scheifele jersey right on. Get him in there for some games and whatnot. Maybe further incentivize him with, I don't know, some other good stuff when the Jets win. I'm sure there's a lot more that we can do to make this happen.
He's going with some friends to the Moose game Sunday. It is Mickey Moose bobblehead day, and I know he's going with some friends. So usually, we've gone before. I don't know, he's getting older. We'll see how it goes. Although he has a Heritage jersey with a no number. And before that, he had a jersey with a number. So he's pumped there was a number on this one. More into the numbered jersey than blank. So,
well, if he was a little bit older, maybe a little bit more in the know, he'd realize that the timing of a Mark Scheifele jersey was perfect because Mark Scheifele was beast mode along with his line mates on Monday against the Toronto Maple Leafs. And I know we got the World Juniors and the games coming up and practice today. But Remo, that was as fun of a game for Jet fans. And you combine it with it being a matinee with most people are off work, heading into a few days off. I honestly can't think of a better way for Jet fans to go into the holidays than with their team in first place overall and getting a win in that fashion in Toronto against that team with so many people paying attention to it.
Yeah, it was a fun afternoon game on Christmas Eve. And is there anything better than beating the Leafs, which Mark Scheifele famously said the last time they won? So it was their first, the 6 losses in a row to the Leafs finally get a win. I think it made you feel good heading into the holidays, heading into a couple days off, being first place at the break. And having Mark Scheifele put the exclamation mark with a hat trick and 4 points on the night. Kyle Connor, 2 goals, 2 assists. Gabe Vilardi working his magic as well. A solid performance from Hellebuck, doing it on the, it wasn't quite a national game, but we did have the full panel, complete with the quiz, and Jeff O'Neill in an elf costume. So it felt like a more than a regional game. And beating the Leafs, always great. And a number of Jets fans there as well in attendance. It felt good, Huss, on a Monday afternoon.
Speaking of having the full panel there, which was a real nice treat for those of us in the Jets viewing region. I can't remember whether it was before the game or in between periods where they did the quiz. And the quiz question was, who will go further in the playoffs?
Yes.
Winnipeg or Toronto? And they started off with Jeff O'Neill, who said he's been burnt by the Jets in the past, but he's going with Winnipeg. Cheryl Pounder picked Winnipeg. And then Darren Dreger picked Winnipeg. A clean sweep of the Jets on the panel. And I have to admit, I did wonder aloud whether they do record 2 versions of the quiz and play one on in the Jets viewing area and a different one that maybe didn't have it a clean sweep for Winnipeg in the Leafs area. All jokes aside, though, it seems like more and more people have been paying attention to what this team's been doing so far, and man, they're playing some good hockey coming into this break, and gonna have to be good getting ready for the Sens, who've been a much better team over the last month plus behind Linus Omark, who doesn't sound like will be here tomorrow. But are you with my conspiracy theory that there may be 2 versions of the quiz that are recorded?
Yeah, I think a lot of people were shocked, me included. I didn't, some 1 or 2 people, maybe they discuss before, who's going to say what on those segments, so it's not all the same. So I was surprised everyone did say the Jets. Then you floated that to me in a text message, and I was like, yeah, that would makes sense. I mean, I don't know if it's live. Maybe they pre-record the quiz portion and insert it into the broadcast. I don't know. I didn't see anyone from Toronto. No one.
Cowboy says he's on the road and watched the Toronto TSN feed, and the quiz was all Jets.
Okay.
Believe me, I was tongue in cheek about suggesting that they might do the exact same thing with different answers in the other thing. But to your point, Reem, it was a little surprising, I think, just based on a lot of factors. I'll just leave it at that everyone was in on the Jets. But to be perfectly honest, the way this team's been playing, along with, if you ask me, the Hart Trophy favorite heading into 2025, Connor Hellebuck, never mind the Vezina, why wouldn't you think that this Winnipeg Jets team could go further than the Leafs?
Yeah, and the Leafs did have the questions with the goaltending. Stolar's injured. They did have Woll last game. Matt Murray played his first game in a couple of years. The other day, you look at the Jets, they're in first place. The Leafs have had problems with their division in the past, although, you could be a matchup against Boston, Tampa. But same for the Jets. I mean, who are you going to want to play here in the first round? Minnesota, who's having a great season, although they're in second. Colorado and Dallas are the ones 3 and 4. We saw Colorado last year. Just the thought of Nathan McKinnon again, very scary us every time he touches the puck, him and Mikko Rantanen, and they made some news today, locking a Mackenzie Blackwood to a 5-year deal. How about the Dallas Stars with Jake Ottinger? They got a plus 20 goal differential. They're in 4th place right now, though. The top line with Robertson, Hintz, very underwhelming, but I think they're solid throughout the lineup and with a very strong defense. So I think whoever the Jets get matched up with in the first round, maybe is there going to be a crossover team?
There's no gimmies in this division. Even in the West.
There's no gimmies. It's a very hard. I would take Jets as a slight favorite over the Leafs to make it out of the first, but it's going to be very tough either way. I mean, you're playing. I don't know who's going to get the wild card. Could it be LA or Vancouver with a crossover? I mean, Vancouver was first last year. I mean, they're having some off ice stuff. Lately, that's everyone's talking about.
Right, it's still good. If it happened, Dallas is actually in the wild card that the Jets are playing, and
they won last year. Like their team is very similar to last year, and they were the top team. So no one is going to be a gimme. I imagine the odds would be very close.
I will say this though. I mean, and I know Calgary is just 1 point back of Dallas, and 2 points back of Vancouver, but I do not expect the playoffs to change in the West. I think the 8 teams that are in right now are going to be the 8 teams, which means Calgary, Utah, St. Louis, the Kraken, all the way down to the Ducks, Preds, Sharks, Blackhawks will be the teams on the outside looking in. And the playoffs will be some combination of the Winnipeg Jets, Minnesota Wild, Colorado Avalanche, Dallas Stars coming out of the Central, and Vegas, Edmonton, Kings, and Canucks coming out of the Pacific. Now, I mean, the Jets they're the first 25-win team in the league. They are the first team to crack the 50-point barrier. I believe they're 3rd overall when it comes to points percentage behind Vegas. And is it the Washington Capitals? Yeah, the Caps have only played 34 games and have 48 points, so they're slightly ahead. But listen, it's a nice area to be in for the Jets as they get back into it. And Remo, this stretch coming up, and we'll talk about this more when Hammer comes on, but this is the opportunity to make up for all of that brutal travel that the team had before. Let the rest of the NHL come here to Winnipeg in the middle of January. The Jets can get ready and crank out 2 games, 1 on the road, and then 8 straight at home. I'll tell you what, if the Jets can continue playing over the course of these next 3 weeks at home the way they have all season long, they're going to put themselves in a very, very good position, not only to potentially win the Central Division, but I would imagine being right there for the President's Trophy. Now, again, is the goal the President's Trophy? No, but I mean, I'm still sour that they blew the Central Division banner in 2019, so that would be a banner we could live with, and hopefully another 1 or 2 when the playoffs get going.
Yeah, we'll see what happens, Huss, but I agree. Big opportunity here for the Jets in January with so many home games. Making teams like Anaheim come here on January 2nd and experience Winnipeg, LA on January 10. I mean, these guys don't know
Come on
about
down
cold.
to Winnipeg, as Willie Jefferson would say.
They don't know about snow, so we'll see how it goes. I think the Jets' record at home, very good. Just looking at the standings right now.
12-3-1.
Yeah, 12-3-1. So you're likely going to see some wins here, I think. How good will it be? But I agree, big chance for them to, I guess, put more of a stamp on their place and their spot in first place, 51 points, ahead of Minnesota. And I just saw from Minnesota has Kaprizov not making the trip.
Yes.
I don't know what his injury is. I didn't see, Logan Stanley didn't play against Minnesota on Saturday, so there were no bonsai drops happening this year. But we'll see. We'll see what happens with Minnesota, who's, after they lost to the Jets, well, they've had a tough stretch, 4-6 in their last 10.
Yeah, it's a lower body, and he did not travel with the team to Dallas. So, for a team that was already sort of leaking oil and dealing with some injuries, there's no bigger injury than 97 on the Minnesota Wild. They are in Dallas tonight, and as you mentioned, speaking of injuries, a return from injury, Alex Ovechkin will be back. He's expected to play against the Toronto Maple Leafs. But we'll talk about this with Alex Adams coming up, Reem. Linus Ullmark, who has been the catalyst to this turnaround for the Ottawa Senators, not making the trip either, and they're actually down to Mad Sogard and some young guy from the American League that only has 4 NHL appearances so far. So Ottawa and their goaltending situation a little bit sketchy coming into today. But listen, we're going to get to everything going forward, but did not want to completely overlook the big gift to Winnipeg Jet fans heading into the Christmas break by the Jets, that win over the Toronto Maple Leafs. Let's hear what Winnipeg Jet coach Scott O'Neill had to say about the offensive explosion of the top line against the Leafs.
Kind of a little bit like the mini game. I thought we came out really good and, didn't let Toronto kind of get into their game. I thought we got into ours, which we needed to do. Our top line, they were outstanding. Scored obviously all their goals and did some great things. And when your best players are your best players, that goes a long way.
First team, I think, to have 2 20-goal guys. I mean, what does that mean to have the not only balance but the high end games in 14?
Yeah, I think, and then that's one area where we've kind of had it spread out a little bit there. We've got contributions from everybody, but when your top guys can do that, it gets opposition on their heels a little bit. They have to be aware of when they're on the ice at all times, and when you can go out on the road and your top line can do that, it leads to success, lots of success.
For Mark specifically, I mean, friends and family game,
yeah.
And to get a hat trick, what do you think that means?
Yeah, I know that, he likes coming in here to play, and certainly everybody that has family around here, everybody, the Ontario guys, it's always nice. We haven't won in here in a while, and, that was just really a deep, solid, everybody contributing, especially when we lost Fleury there, especially with their defense being short-handed. I just really like the fact the way we played in front of them.
Yeah, certainly a lot of guys stepped up and had great games, but all the attention was on that top line. Scheifele with a hat trick and an assist for 4 points. Kyle Connor, 2 goals, 2 assists. And Gabriel Velarde-Remis with 3 assists on the night. I know you focus in on 2 guys that had 5 goals, but man, was he a big part of it as well. And he made a pass. He made a play and a pass into a tap-in goal that honestly, I think we can pretty much mark it down for one of the passes of the year, not just here in Winnipeg, but in the NHL.
Yeah, I mean, that top line has, when they're going, they have chemistry. They can make exceptional plays. All of them, Kyle Connor shooting. I mean, Velarde making plays in front, as you mentioned, picking pucks out of the air and dishing it. And Mark Scheifele, just a solid game for him. And you look at the points, the Jets' first team with 2 players over 20 goals. Kyle Connor, 21 and 36. Mark Scheifele, also 21 and 36. And I don't know, are we on Rocket Richard watch for Kyle Connor? I think he's a bit behind. He's tied for 6th, but he's only 3 goals behind Leon Draisaitl. So when you look at the league points, McKinnon leading with 57. He's got 5 on Draisaitl and goals. I wonder if we have more of a closer race here than we've had in the past, and could we see some Jets involved? But that top line, when they're playing at their best, they're among the best lines in the league, and that's what we saw there on Saturday. My day's so confused. I kept thinking it was going to be Monday. today, a whole week of work ahead.
Yeah,
on Monday afternoon against Toronto.
It's actually Friday, which means the final marble race of 2024. So make sure to stick around for that. Here's a little bit more from Arneil just on the Jets play that led them to being the first 25-win team and first 50-point team in the National Hockey League at the Christmas break.
Well, it's a good start. It's a race. Obviously, you've got to get out of the gates. You have to get out of the gate good, and we did. Now you're kind of getting close to that halfway mark. The Christmas break. It's obviously we were really happy with our accomplishment, but there's a lot of games to go. We've got this Four Nations kind of sitting in there. Everybody's schedule after Christmas gets really busy until February 8th. So again, we'll have a couple of days to recognize what we've done, but then turn the page and move on.
All right, so there's the coach, Scott Arneil, very pleased with the first half of the season. Not quite officially half, but up until the Christmas break, and obviously the way his team went into that break with that 5-2 win over the Leafs. Mark Scheifele was the star of the show, along with Kyle Connor. And, Scheifele talked about Kyle Connor's season. He got 2, Scheifele got 3, and as Michael just mentioned, both tied the first team with multi-20-goal scorers this year.
He's amazing. I'm so lucky to play with him. He's unbelievable. He does so many amazing things out there. Obviously, his speed, his shot, the first things that come. But he makes some fantastic passes. He goes to the right areas. He grinds in the corners. He's a real pleasure to play with, and I'm lucky to play with him and Gabe.
All right, yeah, they were on. Now, it did seem like this was also another great opportunity for Mark Scheifele to remind the tall foreheads at Hockey Canada that overlooked him for the Four Nations team that he is very much on top of his game and available should the opportunity arise, and certainly wants to be on that Olympic team next year. Mark was asked if not being named to Team Canada was some sense of motivation, knowing that there'll be a lot of attention on a game heading into Christmas in Toronto.
You obviously you're disappointed, but at the end of the day, you just want to play well for your group of guys. Obviously, there's always a little motivation that you can draw from in every game. But just a matter of playing good for the Winnipeg Jets and controlling what I can control.
And man, they controlled a lot on Monday. Now, excuse me, the win over the Leafs was the first in 7 since the infamous "is there anything better than beating the Leafs" comments afterwards in the dressing room, that many Leaf fans had fun with Scheifele and the Jets over the last little while. Scheifele, to his credit, after getting the jersey, did the "hey guys, is there anything better than winning going into the Christmas break?" Very clever by Mark, kind of playing on that. But he was asked if there was some level of revenge, I guess, considering the lack of success they'd had recently against the Leafs. And, of course, the Leafs being the team that ended their season opening winning streak.
Yeah, obviously, I think the biggest thing is, we didn't play our best when we played them last. So I think we were excited to get another crack at them and show them, the game that we can play. So all in all, it's a big win for us, and that's pretty much it.
How cool is it to do this in front of friends and family like this?
Yeah, it is always fun. Obviously I love coming to Toronto, and just because I have the opportunity to play in front of a lot of friends and family, and it being so close to home. So obviously I get a little extra excited to play here. So getting the win before the break is huge.
I saw one or two hats hit the ice. Are you looking for them after you? Are you?
I was hoping I was gonna see a couple right away, but maybe the Jets fans couldn't get the seats closer to the ice.
All right, so there's Mark Scheifele, who was the star of Monday's game, and here's one quick one from Kyle Connor, who just talked about how the Jets have made it to the top of the division and right there at the top of the league at the Christmas break.
It's a team effort, top to bottom. We need everybody in this group. PK was good. We gave up the 1, but overall I thought it gave us some momentum. Power play, everybody chips in, and I just think our ability to roll over lines and be hungry, not be satisfied with anything. We also been able to take a day-to-day approach. Learning on what we can improve on from wins and losses, and done a great job of implementing the adjustments we need to.
So a Merry Christmas was had by all in Jetland with that win over Toronto. 3 days off, and now Remis back in practice. And I imagine before the end of the program, we should have some updates on where's Logan Stanley at, the latest on Hayden Fleury, Dylan Sandberg's timeline, and that just is on the defense.
Yeah, we did have some news today. Dylan Sandberg skating by himself before practice. We'll wait and see if there's any update there. Dylan Coughlin was called up today. He was skating on the third pair with Logan Stanley and Colin Miller in on the second pair with Neil Pionk. Mitch Clinton tweeting out these lines. So, yes, Hayden Fleury, we're waiting to hear more of an update on him. And Ville Heinola was the extra defenseman. Connor Shafley, Velarde, Ehlers, Nemestikov, Perfetti, Niederreiter, Lowry, Appleton, Bearhan, Kupari, Iafallo, Gustafsson. No changes on the forwards as it has been for pretty much the entire season, but waiting to hear on some of these updates on defensemen. Is Logan Stanley back as a full participant, Huss, after missing the last 2 games with an injury? So again, waiting. These practiced at 1 o'clock. It is 1:30 right now. We'll wait and see. Hopefully later in the show we'll have more clarity.
Yeah, the media chat is hot and heavy for some requests on the backdrop today. Sounds like we'll maybe be hearing from Captain Adam Lowry, who put himself out on Instagram with some lovely Christmas pictures wearing his Bengals sweater. Can't get over the fact that Lowry is a big Bengals guy.
I have the clip, actually. He was on the show with you after he was named captain. You got into your customary fantasy football talk, and you asked him about it. Hold on, I clipped it. I was going to tweet it out, but it was kind of... Let me see if I have it.
Look at this.
I have it somewhere. And he mentioned he was a big Andy Dalton, Rudy Johnson guy from fantasy.
I thought he was maybe going to be a Burrow guy.
No, before Burrow. I got to find it. I had it.
Goes back to the Red Rocket, Andy Dalton. You know what? And credit to us. Okay, play this.
Okay, wait. Give me 1 sec. I gotta save it properly. But
yeah. And credit to us for not even mentioning that game last night between the Bears and Seahawks, which, after seeing the greatness of the Chiefs and the Ravens do their thing, to follow that up with, an all-time Thursday night football game. It brought me back to the days of the AFC South Super Bowl in the color rush unis between the Jags and the Texans, or the Titans and the Jags. It was so bad, but it was like a car crash. You couldn't take your eyes off of it. Now, there was some probably more entertaining television last night. That was the kickoff of the World Juniors in Canada. Got a nice blanking of the Finns. We're going to head out to Ottawa in just a minute and hook up with Alex Adams. What a perfect time. Alex is doing a great job covering the Sens, and he's doing the World Juniors, and we want to get to both with the Sens in town tomorrow night. So we'll do that. We'll do that right away. Did you find that thing?
I have it. I do want to say the Netflix football was incredible. Beyonce, the halftime, they made Christmas an event. That was a Super Bowl, caliber halftime show.
We'll say that because we do have to get to a little more NFL later on. Both, what happened on Christmas, the production, and of course, in a NFL adjacent conversation, we need to get to the release of the Prime documentary on Chiefsaholic, robbing banks to go to Chiefs games. So that will be later on. I wonder if Lee's seen that yet.
I don't want to make Alex wait, but here's a clip. Adam Lowry saying he's loyal to the Bengals.
Do you have a particular allegiance to one NFL team?
I'm a Bengals fan, so it kind of started. I was an Andy Dalton fan. I have an Andy Dalton jersey, and Joel Armia and I used to watch the Bengals games with him and Giovanni Bernard. think it was the year Aaron Rodgers broke his collarbone. I needed to pick up a quarterback on the waiver wire, and I got him. So, yeah, I'm loyal to the Bengals.
All of these things, it comes back to fantasy football one way or the other. I love the Giovanni Bernard shout out from Joel Armia's old team. Anyways, as we mentioned, Alex Adams is going to join us right away. But while we're getting into the World Juniors, this is a great time to remember people to get your tickets for the next draw for the ultimate 50-50 draw, the biggest power play yet, brought to you by Hockey Canada. And if you missed us last week, these draws are unique to the province. So if you're a Manitoban, you will go to the link. The link is in the description. It's hockeymanitoba.myshopify.com. Grab your tickets, and the winner for the Manitoba pool will be from Manitoba. So you'll be going up against other Manitobans, and the great part about it is 50% of that pool is going to be going to the winner. The other 50% helping promote grassroots hockey initiatives right here in the province. So don't wait. Get in on those. I imagine this will be a big one. The draw is on December 31st. It just opened yesterday at the conclusion of yesterday's draw. Congratulations to the winner. And again, go to the Hockey Manitoba website for more information on that. But if you just want to go and grab your tickets, do it now. hockeymanitoba.myshopify.com. Hey, we're not quite at the new year yet, but if your 2025 involves a move, get planning on that and do it with the experts and the most trusted name in moving services, of course, our friends at Roley's Transfer, family owned and operated for over 60 years right here in Manitoba, with an extensive logistics business that takes them around the province in southern Manitoba, not just the city, on a daily basis. Roley's provides flexible routes, flexible timing, and amazing rates, not to mention the white glove treatment for your property that Roley's is known for. Head on over to their website, click on Request an Estimate, put in the promo code WST for a special discount for moving services and moving supplies for Winnipeg Sports Talk listeners. Let them know when and where you're moving and what needs to go, and they'll turn it around with a great quote and get you locked in. Take as much of the stress out of the upcoming move as possible. If you're moving in 2025, talk to our friends at Roley's, the most trusted name in moving services in Manitoba for over 60 years. Check them out and request a quote today over at Roleys.com. It's very nice outside. It will be getting a little colder. You know what's coming up in the next couple months, gang. It is the meat of the winter. A Manitoba Battery has got you covered. Now, you probably don't need the gift ideas anymore, but you might still need what Manitoba Battery has for you, with things like the NOCO 1000 amp booster pack for just $139.50, or 25-foot booster cables to make sure your loved ones aren't stranded at the side of the road, not able to get it going. But listen, as we get outside, I know a lot of friends, I think Larry actually might be tuning in with us on the ice right now, doing some ice fishing. They got those ice fishing flasher batteries you might need. And of course, we're getting out on those sled batteries that need to be replaced, all for the best prices in town, period. Beating the pants off the big box stores. Learn more at manitobabattery.com, or check them out at their two locations, Logan Avenue and, of course, the new one on Dovercourt Drive on the south side of the city. And hey, Boxing Day has passed us, but the Boxing Day sale continues down at F Apparel. Fellas, if you need to upgrade your menswear game heading into the new year, save big this Boxing Day right through until New Year's. 20% off all custom clothing right now at F Apparel. Check them out online at that's EPHapparel.com, and pop down and see them at the store. Up to 75% off menswear accessories, of which they have the biggest and best selection in town for as well. So right up until New Year's, the Boxing Day sale goes. Get on down. 190 Smith Street downtown, fapparel.com. All right, let's talk some puck right now. We'll get away from the Jets for a minute, although we will look ahead to tomorrow against the Ottawa Senators. But let's welcome in with a holiday visit, the very busy Alex Adams. Alex, man, great to have you on. Best to you and the family. And congratulations on such a great 2024. I mean, we were speaking, a year ago, and man, doing the Sens now on a daily basis and it's been really great to see the way you've grown as well.
Yeah, Santa's been very good to me. I don't know what I did, but I got on his good list. But no, it's been an incredible 2024 and in the past couple of years. And I still think about coming on the show in Jakarta at like 1 a.m. and talking about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. So I do appreciate coming on the show every time I have been on it. And obviously I kind of joke to myself, outside of Rick Bowness and my dad, I think I watched the Jets and Sens more than anyone else. So I always appreciate coming on the show and kind of previewing Sens and Jets.
Well, you know what? Just before we get to that, what's the vibe like for the World Juniors in and around Ottawa? Listen, I think the insanity of the World Junior probably peaked about a decade ago or so. It kind of became the golden goose for Hockey Canada and the IIHF, and they kept bringing it back to Canada and putting it in bigger venues. And it seems they've dialed it back a little bit, but still, I mean, Ottawa in 2009 might have been one of the best that have ever had. And I guess they're hoping to recreate that. But, how's the community feeling about it right now? How have the crowds been, and what are the expectations moving forward?
They've been great. Even the pre-tournament games with Canada, they were essentially all sellouts, right? I think they played on the 23rd, and they had more fans than most Sens games for a pre-tournament game against Czechia. So I think the community's really come together and really rallied behind the tournament. Essentially, all my friends are at least one game throughout the next couple weeks. Obviously, that's hearsay, but it seems as though I know the tickets are essentially all sold out to Canadian Tire Center for the whole tournament. The crowd yesterday was great. I think they've really embraced it, and obviously it's the holiday season. You have families and friends in town, so it really works out well. But I think, to give Ottawa fans maybe a bit of, like, hockey fans a bit of credit, when there's a winning product, they'll come out, and obviously Canada is ripe to hopefully win this gold medal. But the Ottawa fans get too much slack when they're pretty good. It's been a tough couple of years. So I think you're seeing that now with the World Juniors and even with the Sens as well.
Well, and listen, I mean, just from a World Junior perspective, I mean, this team did lose in the quarters last year. I mean, they were a 5th place team, and with that comes a lot of pressure on this team, and there's only a few returnees, including, Winnipeg Jet prospect and the captain, Braden Yeager. Mm-hmm. But from all accounts, and I mean, listen, I realize with the tournament being in Canada, Canada will always be amongst the favorites, but I think Canada just ran away with a gold medal. It would surprise a lot of people. It sort of seems like the USA is probably the smart money as the favorite right now, but you've got other teams like the Finns, maybe not quite their best. Swedes are always good. And then, we had a couple scouts on, including Shane Malloy, said watch out for the Czechs and the Slovaks so far. So a wide open tournament. But hey, they certainly put their best foot forward yesterday against Finland. How'd you see the first one going? Listen, a pretty tidy win without anything going behind their own goalie.
I think what's interesting with this team, unlike past years where they always say it's a 19-year-old tournament, but this year with McKenna, Martone, Schaefer, I think for Canada, their best players are going to be their youngest players. And essentially, if they rise to the top like they did against the Finns, right? McKenna scores the first goal. Schaefer sets him up. He gets an empty netter as well. If those guys continue to play well, which I don't really doubt that they will, they've been just unbelievable so far in camp and in the first game. That's Canada's way to find success in this tournament. I do think outside of the U.S., Canada is. I honestly think they're the best team in the tournament. The U.S. last year was stacked, obviously with guys like Gerd McGroarty and others on that team. But heading into this tournament, I think Canada should be the favorite. I think their play against Finland showed why they should be. Essentially, for 45 minutes of that game, Finland really had very few chances. And then at the end, Carter George bailed Canada out with a couple good saves. But I didn't really feel like the game was in doubt, at least from my perspective. And so I think this will be a pretty I think they're going to throttle a couple teams in the next couple days. And then I think the game against USA will be really, really fun and probably between best two teams in the tournament.
Yeah, New Year's Eve, Canada, USA. I mean, that is always a highlight of the entire tournament. Canada will take on the Latvians tonight. The one guy that, was I think is going to be maybe more of a household name at the end of this tourney and will just continue to grow over the next couple of years is this Gavin McKenna. It is insane to think that he's still 2 years away from being drafted in the NHL. When you look at how big he is and the incredible skills he brings to the table, could this be sort of the breakout star? And could we be seeing a guy that, obviously is younger than everyone else, but at the end of it all might still be looked at as maybe the offensive catalyst for Canada?
I think that's going to be the most fascinating part of this ride is, does Gavin McKenna prove himself to be the best player on this Canadian team as a double underager? And honestly, after the first game and training camp, I kind of think that might be the case. And that's so exciting to see. I'm going to be writing a story about him, and you look at his stats compared to Gretzky, Crosby, Bedard, 2 years out from the draft, and he has pretty comparable stats. And I think, watching Bedard do what he did as a double underager a couple years ago at the World Juniors, and obviously everyone will remember that goal he scored against Slovakia. I think we're going to see a bit of a McKenna show here, and it's going to be even crazier next year when he's playing and he's a year older, a year better, and what that looks like is pretty frightening for opponents.
I was just looking at the notes coming out of Game 1, and of course, Braden Yeager, who came over in the Rucker-McGrory trade, is captain Canada. It was neat to hear that Sidney Crosby reached out to him, along with Josh Morrissey and Mark Scheifele. But, he's obviously the captain and a returning player. It's a big role. How do you see Yeager helping Canada? And, it didn't seem like he was in the most offensive position right out of the gate last night. But, a guy that's going to be leaned on for a lot, I take it.
Yeah, I think his role as captain is similar to the Jets right now with their captain and Adam Lauer. Obviously, they don't play exactly the same type of style, but he's on the penalty kill. He's a really responsible forward. He kind of leads by example. Before, when he was announced captain, all the players were speaking really glowingly of him and just being a guy that everyone really likes, that everyone likes to be around, and just talking about how high quality a person he was. And I think basically for Dave Cameron and his decision to put in Yeager as the captain was kind of to have someone that can just kind of steady the ship with a lot of young guys on this team. And I think so far he's done that. I don't expect him to be someone that gets a lot of, he's on one of the power play units, but I don't think he's going to put up eye-popping numbers offensively. But he's a really smart player that you can put in any situation and he'll thrive. And I think he did that against Finland, and I expect that to continue for the rest of the tournament with Yeager.
Let's obviously just to check. Canada's got the Latvians tonight. Yeah. That is a 6:30 p.m. game, Winnipeg time. Sweden and Kazakhstan at 4, Finland, Germany at 2:30, and right now after 2, the Slovakians and the Swiss are playing today. Canada will have tomorrow off. The USA will take on the Latvians, but the big one coming up is going to be New Year's Eve against the United States. Alex, let's shift over to our focus tomorrow with Canada not playing, and that is going to be our Winnipeg Jets and the team that you cover most closely, the Ottawa Senators. And, I'll say this. It seems like it's amazing what a little bit of NHL elite level goaltending can do for a club, because it seemed like it was more of the same this year with the Sens. High expectations, not coming close to matching them. And then all of a sudden, Linus Ullmark put the team on his back. And for the better part of the last month, this team has just been making more and more progress to a point where they're going to be playing meaningful games and they've got a chance at contending to be a playoff team, which is the goal from the get-go.
Exactly. The problem, the rub is now Ullmark won't be on this road trip. And obviously, I think a lot of people were looking forward to an Ullmark versus Hellebuck matchup in net. But exactly what you said, look at Winnipeg. I think they're a pretty good team, but what makes them really great, especially in the regular season, is the fact that they have the best goaltender in the league, right? And to begin the year, Ullmark was just very shaky. And then after a game in November against San Jose, where I think he made 36 saves, and the Sens only had, I think, 12 or 13 shots and won the game. Ever since, he's just been dialed in. They winning 8 of 9 of the games, going 8-0-1, and that's been the difference, right? Past couple years with Matt Murray, with Korpisalo, with Cam Talbot, Gustafson, Decord. Like, there's been a lot of good goalies that have come to Ottawa and struggled and then have thrived elsewhere. But with Allmark, when Ottawa got that elite goaltending, you're going to win, right? That's kind of how hockey works. I think for the most part, the Sens actually, their record of 18-4, 14-2 is pretty reflective of how good they have been this year. If you look at their underlying numbers, they're one of the best teams in terms of shot share, expected goal share. Tim Stutz has really become a really good offensive player, which he was 2 years ago. But on the defensive end, you can just see him really taking the next step. Steve Staios brought in Nick Jensen, who's been in Sens land, we call him Dylan DeMello 2.0, just because of how good he's been for Thomas Chabot. Like DeMello was so long ago with Chabot in his career high. I think it was in 2019-20 where Chabot had 50 points and got him that extension. And then obviously DeMello left, and he's now been doing that for Josh Morrissey for a long time. So this team really has kind of assembled into the right place with veterans that this team just didn't have outside of Claude Giroux. So I think this team, for the most part, will contend. Now, I don't know if Levi Marilainen and Mads Sogard is going to take you to the promised land of a playoff spot. Although it seems like Anton Forsberg might be coming back, but he didn't. He was struggling this year as well. So weirdly enough, it looks like after it's said and done, it will just be, in my opinion, for this team to make the playoffs, whether Linus Ullmark can stay healthy, and we'll see, because he's never played more than 50 games in a season, and it doesn't look like he will this year after another injury.
You know what? I knew they had made up ground, but they actually were in a playoff spot at Christmas. And, 34 games played, they've got 38 points. So, you are, only 4 back of the Boston Bruins with 2 games in hand. Right there. I mean, they're like in Florida, for sure, New Jersey and Washington, and even the Leafs, probably are that sort of upper echelon. But, it is right there for Ottawa. Now, what will be important is to manage to get some points over this course of this next while. How long is this road trip? And tell us about, I heard earlier that they don't expect Forsberg to be going, so it is going to be Mads Sogard and Levi Marilainen, who has all of 4 appearances in the National Hockey League. How long might they have to go, and how long is this trip coming up that, while the World Juniors takes over their rink?
Yeah, so they had a 4-game, it's a 9-game road trip, obviously split up between the World Juniors and Christmas. So they just went 3-1, beat Calgary, Vancouver, and Seattle, and then obviously lost to Edmonton at the end, and then they'll play 5 more. They play Minnesota on a back-to-back on Sunday as well. But yeah, it looks like likely. I don't have concrete information, but it looks like Levi Marilainen will play against Connor Hellebuck. He looked pretty good. He looked all right against Vancouver and Edmonton, in relief against Edmonton after Ullmark tweaked his back. But the goalie discrepancy is quite laughable. So it's going to be tough. I think if this team can just eke out maybe 2 or 3 more wins in the remaining 5 road games, I think that'll be a really good trip. You go 5-4, 6-3 on a 9-game road trip. That's what good teams do, and even you could argue playoff teams do. So it's going to be an uphill battle. The good thing for the Senators is they end the season on just a crazy schedule where they play, I think, 9 of their last 10 games at home against pretty middling competition. So essentially, if the Senators can get to February in a playoff spot, their schedule completely turns in their favor, where they can really kind of cement themselves as a playoff team. But we'll see if they can get there. But credit to
bank the points to hang in, bank the points to hang in there. And listen, just playing meaningful games in March and April, I think, will be an advancement for Ottawa. But when you look at where they're at right now, the talent on that team, there's no reason why they shouldn't be able to grab a wild card or be in that. And you mentioned Tim Stützle, who's, again, having a brilliant offensive season, 39 points. Drake Batherson, though, I think to people outside Ottawa, you've heard of him, you've seen him, but he's a point-a-game player. And then, Brady Tkachuk is sort of a unicorn. There's not a lot of Brady Tkachuks out there. But, man, he's bringing the offense as well as everything else that he brings to the game. And it kind of seems that those three guys are really leading the way right now in addition to what their goaltender's doing.
No, they've been unbelievable. I think seeing Batherson rise into a point-per-game player has really elevated that top six, where obviously they always had Stützle and Tkachuk the past couple years giving you 30, 40 goals, 70 to 90 points. But with Batherson's elevation, he's just so silky on the puck, really good skater. Him and Josh Norris are third or fourth on the team in hits. They've really become much more tenacious players under Travis Green and much better on the forecheck, winning puck battles, really using their size and speed to generate offensive chances. And I think with that, if the Senators can stay healthy with those three, they're going to score a bunch of goals. But ironically, they haven't got a lot from their bottom six, and they've only scored 5 goals in 2 of their last 13 or 14 games. So they've kind of been winning the 2-1, 3-2 games, which is what playoff teams do, what Travis Green has been preaching.
I was about to say, that must be exactly what Travis Green wanted to get out of this team right now. It's great to be able to score, and it's awesome to be able to win the odd shootout. That's not the game plan or blueprint for success into the playoffs. And to bank those points, you do have to be better. Overall, how is the Travis Green period been so far? And what have you just noticed about Travis as far as how he's maybe been different than his predecessors?
Yeah, he's definitely much more I don't know if he would call himself a hard ass, but I think that's what Steve Staios wanted to bring in. And he's definitely much more punchy with the players through training camp. He was making them doing, sprinting drills, really testing their cardio. At the same time, you'll see him chew out players all the time. And I think rightfully so. I'm not trying to denigrate him as a coach by no means. I think this team needed to be taught to be disciplined. Even last year, I remember Thomas Chabot saying, we need to be challenged more. And we need to kind of be coached more, which I don't think DJ Smith did as much as maybe he should. And they've really focused on their structure, which obviously you guys in Winnipeg know how much structure can really elevate a team's success on the ice. And you look at Tim Stützle, look at Drake Batherson, their underlying defensive numbers are way better than they've ever been. The team itself is playing way better together. And I think bringing in players like Amadio, who won't play tomorrow, Cousins, Perron, all those guys can play 200-foot hockey, which I think in the past when they brought in Tarasenko and DeBrincat, really, and even Chychrun to some degree, really good offensive players, but not necessarily 200-foot players to insulate guys like Stützle, Batherson, and Tkachuk. And now you're seeing that happening. And those guys have elevated too because they're still in their early 20s, and that's what happens. You get better. And I think it's been a really good recipe for success. Now, the challenge is, can they stay healthy? And, to begin the year, they really struggled a bit mentally to close out games. And that's what Green has been kind of talking about. Oh, now we're kind of learning to win. In a sense, we're building those habits of locking in a 2-1 game and getting the game to overtime and not falling apart like they did a bunch to begin the year where they lost leads, they gave up goals in bunches, and that's really diminished, and you can see the fruits of their labor.
Alex, great having you on the program. I know you're busy right now paying attention and covering the World Juniors and obviously the Sens game tomorrow, but it's always great to have you on the program. Congratulations on an amazing 2024. All the best heading into the new year, and let's do this again soon and enjoy the game between the two teams we cover going head-to-head tomorrow here in the Peg.
For sure. Thanks so much for having me, and if there's ever a Jets-Sens final, I'm your man. So
let's do it. Let's do it. Hell, that we can travel together for that one.
Exactly. But thanks so much, Huss, for having me on.
You have a great one, dude. There's Alex Adams. Make sure you give him a follow and check out what he's got going on throughout the season, covering the Ottawa Senators over for sportsnet.ca. All right. Jeff Hamilton's going to jump on with us. We will be talking some football a little bit later on. Remis, I think, has a couple of updates from practice that we will get to in just a minute. But give a big Happy New Year to all of our listeners from our friends at Princess Auto, headquartered and founded right here in Winnipeg, and a huge supporter of not only all of our local teams, but Winnipeg Sports Talk as well. If you got that gift card, I want to check out some great Boxing Day deals, go to princessauto.com or check out the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around on Panet Road, on Portage Avenue West, and of course, Brandon as well. And you can always shop online 24/7, 365 at princessauto.com. Hey, if you're getting ready for New Year's, I'm sure you might be making a trip by your local Manitoba liquor marts. Whiskey lovers, if you haven't already picked it up, jump on it before it's gone. The Canadian Club Invitation Series, Canadian Club Classic, 18-year-old high proof. The first ever 18-year-old whiskey from Canadian Club, featuring the well-balanced taste of Canadian Club Classic, carefully aged and bottled at a higher proof for a full-body tasting experience. It just won gold at the 2024 International Wine and Spirit Competition. So when you're getting ready for New Year's, pop by your local Manitoba liquor marts, check out the Canadian Club display, and if you can still get your hands on it for just $79.95, jump on that Invitation Series Canadian Club Classic 18-year-old high proof. Hammer's going to be joining us right away. I want to give a big Happy New Year to our friends at Wallace & Wallace, who, of course, have a big year coming up. Since 1946, they've been the fencing and overhead door specialists serving residential and commercial customers. And in 2025, if your property needs the security and protection of a new fence, they have you covered with them all: vinyl, ornamental, welded wire, chain link, wood fences, not to mention the leaders in temporary fencing. And if it's time to replace your garage door, they've got Winnipeg's largest selection of overhead garage doors, one to pick out that'll perfectly match your home and add value to it as well. 452-2700, the Wallace & Wallace team will arrange a time to come out and give you a free estimate. You can also check them out at wallacefences.com or pop down to their showroom on Lawson Crescent off of Kenniston. All right, I mentioned the Hockey 50-50, or the Hockey Manitoba and Hockey Canada 50-50 draw. Before we get to Hammer, we'll probably go both to some hockey and football topics. Lots of live Winnipeg Jets hockey coming up, including right now over the break. The team is back tomorrow night against the Ottawa Senators, 6 p.m., Hockey Night in Canada game. The Amazon game on Monday, December 30th. Our first look at the offseason champion, Nashville Predators, who are in town. Thursday, I thought it was Anaheim for some reason. I guess it's the Sharks that are in on on January 2nd. First ever Ukrainian Heritage Night. And then an afternoon game the following Saturday, Detroit Red Wings in on January 4th. And then the Beat the Winter Blues Night, Tuesday, January 7th against the Preds, with the Jets cooler bag giveaway for the first 5,000 fans. Yeah, it is Anaheim on the 2nd. Yeah, that was a typo there. But the Ducks coming in. Anyways, lots of hockey coming up. And do not forget, our next game for the WST crew, 3-0 so far on the season, is January 16th against the Seattle Kraken. Go to winnipegjets.com/WST. Grab your tickets and join us for the visit of the Kraken. Remo, Jeff's going to come on right away, but I just didn't notice he had a couple notes in the chat. What's the latest on what we're hearing out of practice?
Yeah, Mitch Clinton, Murad Atesh posting updates, Mike McIntyre as well. And we commented that the D pairings were the third deeper, Stanley and Coghlan, with Heinola as the extra. Halfway through practice, they did swap, and now it's Heinola, Coghlan, and Stanley being paired with David Gustafson for the second half. They're doing power play practice as well. John Liu tweeting that, and I saw they had the Jets posted they got a breakaway shootout thing at the end. Morrissey pulled off some sick move. So having fun at practice, getting ready for the Senators, who've been very good here lately, tomorrow.
Yeah. I mean, just unfortunately for Ottawa, as we just talked about with Alex Adams, no Linus Ullmark, and he really had been the catalyst. But still a lot of great players on that team, and got to be ready to go against anybody in the NHL. All right, let's welcome in our good friend Jeff Hamilton from the Winnipeg Free Press. Hammer, best of the season to you. How was your few days off with the fam? Oh, hold on a sec. You're muted.
I think he's good.
Okay.
I think you're good to go.
now.
I think I'm good now.
Yeah, 1 sec. Let me just do one thing, Jeff, and you'll be good to go.
That's one.
Good now.
There we go.
Okay, now let's go live. Let's go live now. Let's go live now. Go now. Push the button. So holidays were great. It was awesome. Actually, I'm still on holidays, so it's not. I'm off until the 5th or 6th of January. So I got some stuff I want to get done, but that doesn't necessarily mean filling the pages of the Winnipeg Free Press anytime soon.
Do you have anything you need to get off your chest coming out of the holidays right out of the gate?
What is this? I don't know what this opportunity for is, Huss, but I did want to bring some attention to the listeners/viewers. I'm not reflecting it right now. As you can see, my ears are attached to what is called wireless earbuds or wireless buds or whatever, earphones. So I actually got wireless buds. I moved into to 2024. I'm now sporting wireless earbuds, and I would say in the last couple of days, now mind you, I had
those don't look wireless, by the way. Those look
no,
quite
these
wired.
Are wireless.
In fact.
I keep these wired on. I told you. I said you can't see it in the photo, Huss. I led with that. Okay. I said you can't see it. This is for Remo, and I know Remo appreciates these because it helps with the input and the sound quality. But there's more to this story. I've not only moved into wireless earbuds, I took an even further step into the present and, dare I suggest, future, Huss, by digging into AI technology on my phone. I bought the Google Pixel like probably 3 or 4 months ago, and I'm never one that's ever spoken to my phone. So like I'm not an Apple guy. I'm an Android guy. I'll pause for people to roll their eyes. I'm not a teenager. I don't use Apple phones. I do use Apple technology for computers, but Android's the phones I use. And so I got into AI. The Google Pixel has Gemini AI subscription. So in the last couple of days, minus my mom's place yesterday for Christmas, I've been having more conversations with a computer than I have with humans over the last little bit, testing out this Gemini Live thing. And I'm telling you, man, I feel like an old geezer and a young guy all wrapped up into one, because I feel so like I know this has kind of been around. I've seen the commercials and yada, yada. And now that I've been diving into it, I'm having conversations about the Winnipeg Jets and how, this person is speaking back to me. And I'll be honest with you, some of my friends, this AI knows more about the team than my friends do when we go around the circle. So it's been a great break, Huss, but it's been an interesting / weird one as well.
Well, speaking of the break in the Winnipeg Jets, I mean, what a way to go into it with that performance, by the team in Toronto. Mm-hmm. And listen, anytime you go there once a year, so. There's always a lot of people watching it. It seemed like that certainly resonated within Mark Scheifele, who, got a chance to put his best foot forward. But what a way to sort of put a bow on the pre-Christmas point of the season, with the Jets being the first 25 team, the first 25 win team, first team to 51 points, and right there with the best teams in the league through this point.
If only Mark Scheifele could play games right after he was shafted or against Paul Maurice, and he'd probably have 200 points in a season. It's just, that's what, this is a guy that when he has a fire lit under him, he takes full advantage of it. And this was just another example of that. I see no coincidence of, that snubbing and then followed by a game in the center of the hockey universe, right in front of all those people who ultimately, like not directly in front, but Hockey Canada nonetheless, showcasing against the NHL's, most followed and popular team in the Toronto Maple Leafs. So, I give a ton of credit to Mark Scheifele. I also think this is exactly, I would argue, Huss, I mean, this is a little bit, maybe a bit tinfoil conspiracy theory here. I think this was a message to Mark Scheifele. I think this was a message to Mark Scheifele to remain focused. I think this is a test to Mark Scheifele. I'm with Kyle Connor post-game. I think Mark Scheifele has a great chance of making the Olympic roster. I think this is a bit of a, maybe should be used as, at the very least, but could be an outright, a bit of a wake-up call to do something special in the playoffs, right? Lead your team, take over a playoffs. Those are the guys that Canada has the luxury of choosing when picking a final roster. It's not just who can fill the net in the regular season. It's not just who's the best player, on the respective team. There's various roles, and we've seen Mark Scheifele improve. I don't want to say drastically, but very importantly in the right areas, particularly over the last year. And I think he moved himself into very much the Four Nations conversation heading into this year. And of course, the start that he's had and the play that he's played this year, I think a lot of people, not surprisingly, are shocked that he's not on the roster, especially when you look at some of the other players in that group. I do think this is a test for Mark Scheifele. I think this is a test for him to see how he handles it. And if he continues to play the way he's been playing, I have no doubt in my mind he's going to be a roster player on the Olympic team. I just think that this is his test. This is what they're, I think they've seen a guy who's taken advantage of the opportunity, played himself into the conversation, and maybe they just want to see a little bit more. And so that Mark Scheifele or how he evolves, leading up to that time where they make that Olympic roster is going to matter a lot. And I think he's, great first step after being snubbed. Now it's, as he continues to say in these post games, as the news is fresh and people ask him, he just wants to play well for the Winnipeg Jets. And the good news is playing well for the Winnipeg Jets is going to put him in a position to play on the Olympic team. We'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, there is, listen, I think we all realize that there probably could be some real benefits of not having your star players play in that tournament over the course of that break.
Yeah, that's the other part.
Kyle Connor's going to be there. Josh Morrissey's going to be there. Hellebuck, of course, is going to be there. And presuming that Scheifele's not a late add based on an injury, it'll be good for him. But to your point about the big picture and the Olympics, there's absolutely nothing that will help Mark be a member of Team Canada next year more than looking like he did last night in game 83 and beyond. And, at this point, kind of coming out of the break, it is worthwhile, I think, looking at the body of work overall, really dating back to training camp with Scott Arniel coming in. And it does feel like a team right now that understands that while they played very, very well, this is the start of a journey. I think Arnie even used that word after, it is a marathon, if you will. And they've done good things in the past, but it hasn't ended well. I don't know. Do you get the same feeling that I do, that right from the get-go, they kind of had to face their shortcomings and failures in the past, and truly good teams and great teams learn the lessons the hard way sometimes, but learn those lessons. And certainly particularly on that top line, I think we look at Scheifele and Kyle Connor as well as being far more engaged when it comes to every area of the game. And, after that sort of tough start where they were 9-1 to the wrong side of things, they have been really leading the way for the Winnipeg Jets. And the rest of the team's pretty deep right now. But again, people will believe it when they see it, I guess, come postseason time. But that is the challenge for this team. And listen, so far so good considering where they are in the standings.
Yeah, to answer your question, I hope so, man. That's the whole point. That's the whole point of feeling the, that pain of a playoff loss, of falling short in a season that many people, including yourselves, thought was going to be a long playoff run, a successful playoff run like you did in 2018, and at least winning a first round and not being out in similar fashion to previous years. That's added to the narrative. And whether the Jets, who cares what people on the outside think, right? But the Jets have to use, or have to at the very least understand that no one's going to believe that they're a contender even when they're first place for weeks, maybe even months in the league, until they do something in the playoffs. These are the same usual suspects. So the same guys that every team plays against each year in Winnipeg, is, while there's changes, here and there throughout the years, hasn't really much changed since that 2018 run. And I think where you're seeing the improvement and the maturity here, and you can make the argument it might be a bit late, but I think those guys, the Mark Scheifele's, the Kyle Connors, they're established veterans in this league, but they're playing their best hockey. So they still are trending upwards, right? And how much longer can you say that as they enter their early 30s? We'll have to wait and see here, but they are playing great. Connor Hellebuck is playing great. This is a team that, again, needs to use it as a rallying cry that people on the outside, particularly outside of this province, outside of this team, are not really going to be believers in this organization until they do win. There's some of those people exist in Manitoba, obviously, rightfully so. So you kind of have to have that chip on your shoulder. You have to find, in an 82-game season, Huss, you need to manufacture, in some instances, angst and motivation. You're not going to bring that energy and commitment and drive every 82 games. So if you need to dig deep into that, whatever, that list of things that motivates you, the Jets have one at the ready. And that's just that, whether it's going into California and having not so great performances against the Ducks and the Sharks and people kind of calling them pretenders, even those people in right here in our backyard, despite being the first top team in the NHL, like that's essentially the situation you find yourself in. And that's better than being the person that everybody thinks is great and yada yada. You got to use that until you can put together playoff runs, until you can establish that reputation and change that reputation. You're always going to have that. I mean, let's face it, Huss, the Jets could win every single game the rest of the season, regular season here, go on this miraculous set unbelievable things, and if they lose in the first round, no one's going to care. Because that's what they're building towards here. And now that's, I think, the Jets' biggest challenge. We're kind of hitting the midway mark here, or the unofficial midway mark of the season as we turn the calendar. I think these are important times for the Winnipeg Jets. And you talk about learning your lesson or learning the hard ways. I think the hard lessons need to be learned in this part of the season. Load management, figuring out how to play a style of game that isn't, so demanding throughout, these months that seem to go by. What do you call those months? Whatever. I'm missing the word out of my things. Like the dog days of the season. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Was on the tip there of the plank, Huss, waiting for you to rescue me. But you have to kind of get through that part, right? That's part of the 82 game season. I'm hoping that learning, because we've seen such great performances from this team. We've seen such great structured hockey. We've seen not so great structure in some games, but we've seen a team that has been able to go through this amazing start. Yes, they haven't been playing great hockey, but it's hard to stay on top, and they're remaining on that top. So now the next challenge is to get through these dog days of the season, be able to consume some of your energy, because I think the last thing you want to be seeing is 55 huffing and puffing in game 3 of the playoffs because he just, he tried to win the scoring race in the last 2 months, right? Like, to me, it's conserving that energy, learning from that. And at the end of the day, it's a little bit off track here, but just to bring us back to present day, that's going to be the difference. As much as, as successful as they've been, as exciting as it has been to watch, it's going to come down to that first series and slaying that dragon.
Yeah, and listen, I mean, no matter where the team finishes.
But that's every team.
First play. Exactly.
That's not Winnipeg Jets. That's just being lived here by the people that live here.
And it ain't easy.
It ain't.
There's not a single team that's going to walk into the first round and just be granted that pass to round number 2. I mean, at the end of the first round, there will be 8 teams in the National Hockey League playing. So, I mean, there's nothing guaranteed. But I would say that, the way the team has played so far this year, in particular, what's going on between the pipes. I mean, a legendary run by Connor Hellebuyck. By the way, speaking of that, as we sit here coming out of the Christmas break, is Connor Hellebuyck should he not be the favorite for the Hart Trophy right now? He's leading the National Hockey League in wins by 4. He's leading in goals against average. He's leading in save percentage. He's leading in shutouts. He's leading in minutes. He has been the best in every single category at the most important position in hockey for the best team in the league. How is he not the MVP?
Well, to answer that real quickly, Huss, I'd say because it's not the end of the season. I'd say at the end of the season, Mark, today, he's absolutely the MVP.
Yes, that is my point.
Yeah, absolutely.
It takes a lot for goalies to get in that conversation.
Well, and that was my next point. It takes about what you just read off. Not for them to get consideration. What you just read off is that if that's the situation at the end of the year, that's a winner, right? If the Jets are in first place or second place or win the division and Connor Hellebuyck is leading the league in wins, goals against, save percentage, like, duh. Everybody knows how important Connor Hellebuyck is to the Winnipeg Jets. They know how skilled he is in this league. I mean, the Jets wouldn't be where they are without him. You don't have to trust me on that. Go listen to any post game, and that not just Connor Hellebuck. I mean, we're talking about him and certainly the faraway front runner for Vezina Trophy, but you got Eric Comrie playing well too. The Jets just aren't showing up in front of them, but certainly the sound bites afterwards, if it was being voted by this organization, it would be unanimous for Connor Hellebuck and what he means to this team and their success. And as you mentioned, I mean, I think everybody was curious about this guy, kind of looked a bit side-eyed at him after that call or after that series last year. And then the guy shows up and you're like, oh yeah, like he was bang on. Like he is like unbelievable. He was already unbelievable, but like even the slightest bit of doubt from that series, you're like, oh yeah, maybe it was completely lucky that they beat him in that series, right? Like you start coming around on some of those comments, and then you look at what he's been able to do, and not just what he's been able to do, but been able to talk about it. Like there's no panic in this guy. Like there's no, like, he just is like, this is what life is, and I am going to continue to be the best goalie in the universe and give my team a chance to win. And the Jets are just all too happy to sign up for it, rightfully so. I mean, he is the secret weapon. So, I mean, that's the kind of guy that you look at the new contracts, you look at Mark Scheifele, and, we'll see, ultimately those contracts are going to be judged at the end of them, not at the beginning. But you look at two guys that are starting new deals and you're not going, whoa, like, are we getting enough out of these guys? And how is this contract going to look?
I had a conversation, with a friend over the break after the game, actually on Monday night, and we were just talking about, a whole bunch of aspects, and we got back to it, and again, I'll never forget it, on the way home from that Vikings-Chiefs game, and Remis called me, and they just signed both. Hellebuck and Scheifele, matching deals, and at least right now, that is some of the best money spent in the NHL right now, especially on Connor Hellebuck. Hopefully next week I want to get into, it's the end of the year, starting a new year. We'll kind of focus on some of our favorite things throughout the year, best and worst, if you will. Mm-hmm. And certainly, the play of the Jets through the first half of the season will be a big topic. We'll also be getting into some Bomber topics, some big picture things, but while we've got you here coming into the weekend, Hammer, I know things have been somewhat quiet. You've always got your ear to the ground. Are we hearing anything more about, what might be happening among some pretty big decisions for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers as we get closer to CFL free agency in a month?
Honestly, I think it's on hold till after the new year. Like, I think we're in that Christmas zone. I think some business was done beforehand for sure. We know how family forward this organization is. So they wanted to give, people time to share with their loved ones. I'm sure, and just, I think it's, I'm not saying that they work Monday to Friday per se, but they do in a lot of ways, right? The offices are buzzing, Monday to Friday than the weekends. And so I think it works to their advantage that after Boxing Day, today happens to fall on a Friday. I don't know. I'm with you guys. I have no idea what day of the week it is. I rarely do, but this week in particular. So I imagine it's we'll see what happens after the new year. I don't think any decisions are going to be made. I think some decisions maybe have been made on players. As far as like moving forward, I don't know exactly. I am curious about the future of Adam Bighill. I think with Tony Jones signing, I believe that conversation's been had with him. I don't think Adam's coming back next year, or they won't be offered a contract. We'll see what happens. I'm not saying things can't change, but I think the writing was pretty much on the wall with Tony Jones getting his 2-year deal. So outside of that, like as far as finding a new offensive coordinator, I just don't think those announcements. I don't know that they've been made. I kind of talked about a few guys in the past. Whether it be like a Jarius Jackson or other guys that are kind of floating around. I think those guys are certainly being considered. Maybe even have had conversations. But as far as final decisions, we'll see here. I don't think we're going to be seeing anything that's imminent. But at the same time, they're going to have to fill some shoes here. They're also looking for scouts. I kind of alluded to it in a previous, chat with you. I think they're looking at maybe a different structure, some promotions inside, maybe some title changes. I don't think they're going to go back to replacing Ted Gavaya as like an official assistant GM signing. I think they might look for some bodies in the States and put together a bit of maybe ahead of U.S. scouting and have a bit of a network down there and continue to look for guys with Danny McManus, of course. So, there are some changes. There will be moves made eventually. I just think this is, speaking of the dog days of the NHL season, these are officially the dog moments of the CFL season as they get excited and ready to go, right? Because once January hits, I'm not saying that these decisions aren't going to be made in a flurry. They need to be made quickly. Chats have already been talked about for free agents, pending free agents. Those conversations of if this is what we want to do. If we can't bring this guy back, what are potential plans? Those are all things that will continue into the new year. But certainly the first things that need to be done are hiring an OC, figuring out what the future is with those positions. And of course, obviously how that looks in the, in the executive with Gavea now and Hamilton.
Well, and it's such a huge year for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers coming up. I mean, hosting the Grey Cup. And we've talked about the fact that Mike O'Shea and Kyle Walters are on expiring contracts. I mean, I can't help but think, Jeff, how different things could be. I'm not saying will be, but what our conversation 365 days from right now might be like, depending on what happens with this football team this season in the playoffs. And if they're lucky enough to get back to another Grey Cup, how that result in the big game affects the future of the Winnipeg Football Club.
Well, I think there's going to be a lot of change just for Winnipeg standards, right? I think for Winnipeg standards, there's going to be some notable change here. I also think it's going to be the last year for a lot of guys. I think it's fair to assume that Zach Collaros is in his last season, or at least that's got to be thought about, right? I mean, guys like, I don't want to retire anybody here, but, guys who have been around for a while, guys like Stanley Bryant who re-upped, guys like, Patty Neufeld, who hasn't re-upped yet, but I imagine that will be done in short order. Has Patty lined up? Maybe he has. I'm trying to think of if that's an obvious one, but I don't think he has. Anyways, no, he hasn't. So, he's a guy who I'm sure is going to get signed up, but he'll probably, he's probably year to year. There's guys that are getting up there in age. I think is a bit of the, if you even want to call it a silver lining, because I don't think we should be feeling bad for the Blue Bombers. They're not a bad outfit. And if they're moving on from veterans, it's not because they're going and signing elsewhere necessarily. It's just time to move on from guys that committed a lot. I think what we saw with the Bombers the last 2 years, particularly the last season, saw some young guys step up, and they're going to take steps in what will be their second or third year in the CFL. And so I think you're looking at a team that went through it last year, went through some of the growing pains of turnover in the locker room, right? Guys stepping up into starting positions, saying goodbye to guys like Jermarcus Hardrick, Jackson Jeffco, key contributors on that team. Demario Houston left, right? We all know who stayed and who left, and then went through a rough patch, a rough start, right? And then went through a really miraculous run, including 8 straight victories. So, they went through some growing pains, and, I think that will work in their favor. Some of those hurdles that maybe weren't present in previous years because of their continuity. So you look at some of those guys that take added leadership roles, and then you got to decide who's got some stuff left in the tank, right? I mean, we talked about this before. I think ideally, Wade Miller would have won the 2024 Grey Cup, right? And it would have been a better probably chance of him making the Grey Cup. I'm not saying that the Bombers are going to be in tough necessarily next year, but I will say this is that other teams are going to get better next year. So the Bombers there's going to be even more parity next year. So I think that's going to be a big challenge. But Wade Miller is going to want to make the most out of a year where he's, where Winnipeg's hosting. So, Kyle Walters didn't say salary cap be damned, but I don't think they're all that worried about paying dollar for dollar on certain things, and even 2 for 1 and a draft pick if it means, bringing that cup back home to Winnipeg, particularly on home soil. So all that money can be made up and more. So I think there's going to be change here, but I just don't think the change is going to be as drastic. Now, I don't think the Bombers are going to be as dominant, but they weren't as dominant this past season and still found their way there.
Yeah, the entire year will be absolutely fascinating. But before we even get here, let's see what this team is going to look like. You've got lots of work to do before CFL free agency opens in early February. And, of course, we'll be all over that here on Winnipeg Sports Talk, as will Jeff in the pages of the Winnipeg Free Press. Guess what? It's Friday. So have a good weekend. And we'll
TGIF already?
TGIF already. Can you believe that? But have a good one. And next week we will look back at 2024 and look ahead to 2025. I'm looking forward to it, Hammer. In the meantime, though, have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you next week to ring in the new year.
You too, my friend. Pretty convenient that you've been crickets on the finals of our media fantasy league, and me and Ted battling it out in the final here this weekend in a miraculous turn of events.
Where are we at here with the score?
Where are we?
I'll be honest, I have not. I had not checked it. It's such a weird week.
He started getting me real nervous, man. Real nervous early on because he had your boy Patty Mahomes dialing up balls,
Nice
and he had Derrick Henry, who was also deciding to take off. So I'm currently staring down now. Don't let the score fool you, but I'm currently staring down an 81.8 versus 21.8 deficit. We're looking at a 60-point deficit, but I still have several players to play. He had Patty Mahomes. He had Derrick Henry. He had DeAndre Swift. He had DJ Moore. Neither of those guys did great. So he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guys left with a 60-point edge, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 guys. So if you take the bogus percentages that they'll toss these babies out with, they have Teddy at a 60
underdog.
I'm a 38% underdog. Yeah.
Well,
take it right up.
I'll tell you what. It's listen, I mean, one of the worst things that happened in 2024 was the passing of our dear friend Ted, and the fact that his fantasy team has posthumously taken him to the finals and is going up against one of his best friends is actually one of the coolest ways we could finish 2024. So I
honestly think, he plotted this, so just so the viewers know, not to get too much into it, but when Ted passed on November 10th, we had to make a decision with our group and how we were going to proceed and whether he, continue in and what we're going to do with the money and all this stuff. And we decided to keep Ted's team in, but we weren't going to add anybody to it. We weren't so he'd had to, he didn't have the benefit of going to free agency and scooping up a player if he got hurt. And let me remind you, it was November 10th, right? That he hasn't been around. So it was all that time since then. And he just, not only did he rip through the playoffs, I don't think he got a first round bye. I think he finished third in our group.
He beat me.
He set the weekly high score, I believe, at least for guys who are playing each week. So it's a wild story, and we'll see. I'm still trying to kick his ass here in the final, but like he'd want me to, but we'll see. He's got a great start, so it feels like a classic win-win for me in this situation.
You know what? It is, and as I say, we're everyone else is pulling for Ted, obviously, for the story on it, Jeff. Not to mention, not have to listen to you all
I know, and these people don't even know. No one even. This is a fantasy group where you have a lot of personalities, but there's only a few that show up in the chats. And if you were to take out percentages, I'm probably looking at an 80% clip of the chatter in the chat. So it's good.
Have a good one, pal. I will look forward to talking to you next week.
Have a pleasure, my man. All the best in leading into the new year, and can't wait to get things going in 2025. Should be an exciting year.
You bet. There it is, Jeff Hamilton at Jeff K. Hamilton, and of course you can read his work over at the Winnipeg Free Press. All right, we're going to get to some NFL news and notes with Hacksaw. But listen, just before we cheers Beer Friday from Little Brown Jug, let me take a quick look into the chat right now for fan feedback brought to you by Fans First. Fansfirst.ca, your number one spot for buying and selling Winnipeg tickets on the resale market with the best customer service in the business and no fees. What you see is what you pay, unlike pretty much every single other ticketing service out there right now. Check it out today at fansfirst.ca. Comet, I agree with Hammer. Time for 55 to lead the team in a deep playoff run. Well, he certainly has done that once before. I mean, we remember what he did in the 17-18 playoffs, where he was leading the league in goals, and just had, a true breakout performance. that would really be nice to see that happen again. I'll tell you what, it looks anything like he did against the Leafs on Monday, we might see exactly that. Randy Lafreniere says, I just worry about the Jets going into the playoffs when the other team comes in banging. Will they be ready for that? I can guarantee you that'll be a topic. We'll be all over on WST as we get closer to the trade deadline. What does this team need to get to make them the toughest out possible for the great teams that are going to be playing coming up in the playoffs? So that's there. We've also got Patrick says perhaps Helly in the Four Nations will be a precursor to his level of play in the 25 playoffs. Well, listen, the Four Nations is 4 games. Regardless of that, let's just hope that this incredible season he's putting up is the precursor to what we get in the playoffs from Connor Hellebuck, because we haven't seen a season like this by an NHL goaltender in a long, long time, leading every single category by a pretty significant margin. And then Comrie, there's a couple comments about Comrie. Listen, if Comrie's in the playoffs, playing for the Jets in the playoffs, it's a disaster. This team will go as Connor Hellebuck takes them. But I do agree with Matt Hyman. Comrie has been good this season. The team just recently hasn't been very good in front of him and hasn't given him a lot of run support. Some goals for Eric Comrie in his next start. That'll be the New Year's resolution for the Winnipeg Jets. Fan feedback brought to you by Fans First, by fans, for fans, no fees. All right, Lee Hacksaw Hamilton's coming up, and as I mentioned, it is Beer Friday, so let's give a big cheers to our favorite local brewery here in the Peg, Little Brown Jug.
You train day in and day out, learning new techniques, approaching new concepts, and living out the thrill of achieving your goals. Building a craft beer is no different. While you spend your hours on the ice, we spend ours here, brewing our trademark beer. Again, and again. Here's to pushing the status quo and challenging ourselves to build something memorable. 1919 by Little Brown Jug.
A big best of the season to our friends over at Boston Pizza. Great times are waiting for you at your local BP over the next few days. World Juniors tonight, NFL football on the weekend, triple header on Saturday, Jets and Sens Saturday night. The rest of the slate on Sunday, Monday Night Football, and the Jets against the Preds on the 30th. It's all waiting for you, along with their great holiday menu and so much more at your local Boston Pizza. Order online today if you're staying at home at bostonpizza.com. And hey, Boxing Day, Boxing Week, you know what that means? More great deals, which means that if you got a couple bucks in your stocking and maybe looking to upgrade your Jets collection, Bombers, your favorite NFL team, get on down to Royal Sports right now and take in all of the amazing deals to finish out the year in the Royal Boxing Day sale. While you're at it, you can check out the biggest and best hockey section in town and tons of great deals on the King's Skate, Snow, and Surf side of the business over at 750 Pembina Highway. And for more details on the Boxing Day sale and more, check them out on Instagram at Royal Sports Winnipeg. And make sure to give them a follow for the latest merchandise drops, sale information, and, well, before Christmas, it was great holiday gift ideas. Now the newest and best into 2025. All right, we had 2 of the best teams on display on Saturday, or on Christmas Day, I guess, which was not a Saturday, it was a Wednesday. And we had an absolute abomination of a football game that maybe in many ways was the ultimate Thursday night football experience to kick off the week in the NFL. Let's welcome in Lee Hacksaw Hamilton to the program on a Friday. Hacksaw, best of the season. How was your Christmas?
Happy holiday. Well, today's the 27th. We haven't celebrated Christmas yet. My kids are not here yet. They come the 30th. We kind of celebrate a little bit differently. So, yeah, December 25th was kind of strange in my house. But, hey, I got presents to open, turkey still to come December 30th when I get my gang here.
Well, hey, before we talk about the actual games, what did you think about the Netflix experience, the production that they put forth with both of the games, the Super Bowl level halftime show of the late game with Beyonce, and the 65 million people that watch the games on Netflix?
Well, you can breathe better and easier today. I think the NFL held its breath. They had a bumpy start, a couple of mic malfunctions along the way. It got progressively better and better. Geez, they had everybody on that set except you and me. Yeah. How many people can you have? But it was great. I mean, it was obviously a mega production. They're not going to do that if they get more regularity to the contract. So, for the National Football League to get this kind of money on the Netflix payday, it's good. I don't quite understand their statistics at 65 million, because the number I saw was 24 million for each of the two games. Now, maybe somebody else sampled it somewhere else because they already had a Netflix account. So it's real tough to gauge. But, they're viewing themselves as a player now entering the sports venue, and they obviously did a much better job than when you threw your money away on the Jake Paul, Mike Tyson dancing exhibition. But so, yeah, progress, and the NFL has another interested bidder as it comes to, next round of TV contracts and creatively, putting together a new revenue stream.
Yeah, listen, the numbers are just going up. And I guess that's good. That's definitely good for the league. We saw LeBron say, hey, NFL, this is our day. I'm sorry, LeBron. I think that ship has sailed. And with it being a Thursday next year, count on a triple header at minimum. I joked after LeBron said that they might decide on a quadruple header. So watch what you wish for. As far as the actual games go, we were on a high from the Jets' big win over the Leafs heading into the holidays. I woke up Christmas morning. I wanted a bye. I wanted a number one seed, and I wanted to see the Chiefs go into Pittsburgh and look like a team that is ready for the playoffs. And I think they ticked off all of those boxes. For all of the doubts and all of the ups and downs of a season where all they did was win, I think we're seeing the best of this team right now, getting healthy, and now with the path to the Super Bowl going through Arrowhead Stadium and the only bye in the AFC. What a big win that was for Kansas City.
Well, I had said during the middle of the season, as they continued to struggle and win these last second games and come from behind games, it was a pretty unimpressive performance as it relates to what we knew was vintage Kansas City Chief football. But I also said in the last couple of weeks on our NFL Notebook segments and some of the other shows I'm on, that we haven't seen the best of Kansas City football yet because they had so many guys dinged. And now they're getting everybody back. I mean, now they got Hollywood Brown back. And now you see what Hopkins is doing at wide receiver. See what J.J. Schuster-Smith is doing. Obviously, Kelsey and his buddies at tight end, and now they're three deep at running back. And Mahomes has got better people to work with. At the end of the day, though, they still have problems, I think, at left tackle and right tackle. But we're not taking away the 15-1 record. And, they went in and they punched Pittsburgh in the mouth. And boy, they were really unhappy in Pittsburgh because the Steelers are really on a skid. It's all caught up to them. They had a very pedestrian offense all season long. They've leaned on the defense to carry them. And now the defense is dinged up and worn out. Mike Tomlin's catching a lot of heat. But, they got 10 wins. You can't take the 10 wins away from the Steelers. But at the end of the day, pedestrian offense, and they started to play. I mean, the last three losses, they played the best in the NFL, and they got punched in the mouth in all three of those games. So Pittsburgh's got problems with a week plus to go in the season. I don't even know if they're going to make it, but Kansas City's the real deal. But then again, so is Buffalo and so is Baltimore. And then, on the other street corner of the NFC, so is Detroit and possibly Green Bay and definitely Minnesota. There's a lot of really good football teams, but those teams are just in a galaxy by themselves.
Yeah, they are. I mean, to me, the AFC, there's three teams and then everybody else. And that's why getting that bye was so important. And frankly, beating the Steelers and having the Ravens win from a Chiefs perspective, I mean, the one thing you wouldn't want is the Steelers to win the division and then the Ravens are the 6th seed or whatever, and you're getting them in round number 2. We are on I think the Bills and the Ravens right now that Kansas City has the 1 seed, are on a collision course for an opportunity to go to Arrowhead in that AFC Championship game, assuming Kansas City beats whoever comes out of presumably a Pittsburgh, Houston Chargers game. But that bye's so valuable right now, and not having to beat both of those teams, let them beat the hell out of each other and then move on. So the AFC is pretty clear right now. You just brought up the NFC, and I mean, this NFC North has been the best division in football all year long. It hasn't been close. We have the potential to go down to the final game of the season in Week 18, the 17th game of the season, and have the Lions and the Vikings playing where the winner gets a bye and home field throughout the playoffs. The loser is on the road the next week in the wild card week. The stakes are high beginning this weekend with a Packers-Vikings matchup at US Bank Stadium, while the Lions go up against the Niners on Monday Night Football.
Oh, there's no doubt. I mean, they are the elite, and they're all coming out of the NFC North. And, you count Green Bay into this whole conversation, too, because there's still 2 weeks of Packer football still to be played. I mean, it's been a marvelous season, and injuries have wiped out a ton of other people in the NFC. Let's just zero in on a couple of three big games this weekend. You got Green Bay, Minnesota. Jordan Love has graduated into superstar status. The quarterback, 3,135 yards, 24 touchdowns. How about that running back, Josh Jacobs, who the Raiders didn't keep? He's got 1,212 yards, and he has been an integral part to take some of the pressure off Jordan Love. Sam Darnold's been unbelievable. 32 touchdown passes, quarterback rating of 105. This was his contract free agent year. Now, Minnesota's indicated they're going to open negotiations to try to keep him. So it may be he's found a home, and he's found a home in the playbook of the creative genius that is Kevin O'Connell. And, of course, those two wide receivers are unbelievable. They don't get a lot of national TV play here in the States, which is kind of odd to believe. Because of Detroit's success, probably. But, Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison have 148 catches between them, and they're averaging between them 15 yards per reception. I mean, it's just absolutely phenomenal what they've done. And nobody talks about the Vikes defense. They got 30 takeaways, and they got 44 quarterback sacks. I mean, Minnesota is the real deal, even though the nation probably isn't paying very much attention to it because so much attention's been paid to the Motown Maulers, the Detroit Lions. So Green Bay, Minnesota is going to be a really, really good game. Another game with NFC implications, the Rams are in first place. Let me repeat that. The Rams, who were 1-4 at the start of the season, were dead, are in first place. They won 8 of their last 10, and they win this one. They maintain first place, heading into their season final game against the Seattle Seahawks, which will be a fight for first place. But the Rams play Arizona, and Arizona's on a terrible slide. Whereas the Rams won 8 of 10, Arizona's lost 4 or 5, and most of that damage has been done on the road. And they're wasting a great offense. I mean, they're averaging 353 yards per game. But Kyler Murray's starting to turn the football over, and these road games have been really tough on Jonathan Gannon's team. And what a job by Sean McVay. Now, he's got everybody back healthy. He started the season. We talked extensively about how much trouble they were early. They had 6 offensive linemen hurt. Most of them wound up on IR. They got them all back. Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua were both coming off injuries. And between them, those two guys in L.A. Have caught 135 passes, and a large chunk of them here the second half of the season once they get back on the field with Matthew Stafford. So the Rams, out of nowhere, are in first place, which is really hard to believe. And then an AFC game of real interest is Cincinnati-Denver. Broncos are going to be haunted by what they did last week in Los Angeles, giving away a game to the Chargers that they should have won and actually had an 11-point lead in twice and lost. Now they got to go to Cincinnati and they got to play Joe Burrow. And the Bengals are trying to claw their way into a wild card spot after an awful first half of the season. It'd be a shame to waste the Pro Bowl season, the MVP type season. Joe Burrow's thrown for 4,229 yards, 38 touchdowns, only 9 picks. And Jamar Chase has 108 receptions. The thing that's killed Cincinnati, they're giving up 359 yards per game. So it'll be sad if Joe Burrow can't get this team into the playoffs because the organization has failed to put enough good players around it. But what a mystical season he's had. So those are probably the 3 most marquee games left on the NFL holiday schedule.
Lee, before we go, listen, there were high hopes for the Bears coming into this season. I think we saw it in horrifying fashion last year, just how far this franchise has fallen and how difficult it is going to be to turn it around. They did say on the broadcast that Ben Johnson, who is in high demand in the league, the offensive coordinator of the Lions, is interested and will interview for it. But, I mean, I guess there still are coaches that seem to be wanting to take that gig, even though it has been a bit of a graveyard for NFL coaches in recent history.
Well, you got a quarterback, and it's
do they though?
They do. Caleb Williams, I think, is dynamic. Offensive line's been miserable. Haven't run the football at all. He's done too many Johnny Joe College moves to try to get out of trouble, which has resulted in 67 quarterback sacks, which is unbelievable.
Yeah, they're like 15 and 20-yard sacks, too.
Yeah, exactly, because he keeps dropping back, running for his life, and throw the bloody ball away and live for the next play. But that's a college quarterback learning on the job. Obviously, Ben Johnson is hot candidate for a lot of places. Now a new candidate surfaced. Pete Carroll wants back in the National Football League, and I think he'll get hired somewhere. Wants to interview in Chicago. So Chicago's kind of a marquee thing because that's a quarterback you got there when you walk in the front door. A lot of these other places, you don't have quarterbacks. I mean, look at the mess that the Raiders are. Look at what's happened down in New Orleans. Look at the fiasco with the New York Giants and what the New York Jets might be. And Jacksonville's got an injured quarterback. But, there could be as many as 4 more coaching changes on Black Monday right after the season ends. But Chicago right now is a disaster. It goes from clock management to pitiful offensive line play, wide receivers that they thought were going to be stars and are paying a lot of money to haven't panned out. I think the general manager has to go. Obviously, there's going to be a new coach. The fans want the ownership, the McCaskies, to sell the franchise to. It's really an ugly atmosphere in Chicago right now, and that doesn't include the winter weather that they're going to have to deal with pretty shortly in the Windy City. So, yeah, bad situation, but Caleb Williams is there, and right coach, right situation, obviously different players. You can fix that thing because you do have a quarterback.
Well, we've got one more week to figure out who's going to have a ticket to the postseason dance, and then the old Black Monday, the coaching carousel, the off season, and we move towards the path to the Super Bowl. Lee, have a great time when your kids get there, and a wonderful belated Christmas for you. And we'll look forward to hopefully catching up next week for the first time in 2025 when you can tell us all of your New Year's resolutions, and we'll have a bit clearer picture as to who's going to be competing for the Lombardi this year.
Yeah, awful lot to talk about. And, check my website. I've written a ton, including the top stories of the year in sports, and there's a lot of unique storylines there that we're covering. And by the way, tomorrow's a huge day here in the States. College football playoffs tomorrow. There are 3 monster games, and there's one actually that starts on Friday night, too.
Round 2 is going to be much better than the first round, right?
Yeah, definitely. So, yeah, we got awful lot of things to look forward to in the next week or so. Have yourself a great weekend and Happy New Year, and we'll catch up to you next Friday.
Appreciate you, Lee. Lee Hacksaw Hamilton. Make sure to subscribe to Lee's YouTube channel as well. And if you're hanging around to the end of our program, we'll often head over to Lee when he is live. All right. Let me, Marbles is open, by the way, ! Marbles. We'll get to that in just a minute. Let me throw out the why not question of the day. And for all of you haters, like poor Eric K., who can't watch the Chiefs at home, just crap pop music drama mixed in with football, can't stomach it. No idea what you're talking about, Eric. But for all of you there, I'll put it to you, who is going to be the team in the National Football League that prevents the historic three-peat by Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs? You let me know in the chat. Who will be the team that prevents the Chiefs from doing the three-peat? My answer, of course, is nobody. And you know what, Eric? If you can't handle a Beyonce halftime show, that's the time to go pour yourself a drink or something. I wouldn't get mad online about it. Now, a lot of people are mad online because the Chiefs keep on winning, and I guess that's what happens when you have historic, dynastic teams and athletes. You get a lot of love, but you get a lot of hate too, and that's where it is right now. I will say this, though. How can you not love that team afterwards? Mahomes and Kelsey get those awards. They roll in, and then Andy Reid shows up in a Santa suit to get the game ball, and one of their trainers comes out of a chest as an elf. I mean, come on. Not only fun on the screen or on the field, but also off the field right now. Let us know who that team is going to be. Who do we got here? We got Buffalo. Reg Dunn, the Bills are great. The Lions, I got to tell you, I think the Lions have kind of, like, unless they get all of these guys on defense back, and winning the bye, much like Kansas City did, would be huge for Detroit. I really do wonder about their defense because, listen, they can score with everyone. Probably the most lethal offense when they're clicking right now. Derek Schmidt says the Vikes. Rob Pepper's also rolling with Buffalo. Bruce H with the Vikes. Jets #1, the Packers. Do not sleep on the Packers. Let's bring Remis in here on this. Remo, what do you say to that? Biggest threat to the three-peat?
Man, I'll say this about the Chiefs. I think they slow play the regular season and really bring their best stuff for the playoffs. But when I look at the teams, Bills and Ravens, I think, are the easy.
How has no one mentioned the
picks.
Ravens?
I think Bills and I think maybe the Ravens defense picking it up now was C.J. Stroud. And I did see a tweet comparing his stats to Blake Bortles in year 2, and they were much worse than Blake Bortles. So that's where C.J. Stroud is this year, after having such an incredible rookie season. The Ravens just haven't got it done in the playoffs for years. They can be #1 seed, they can be #2, they can get a bye, and it just hasn't worked out. So I am curious if the Ravens can be the team. It's going to be Ravens or Bills in the AFC for sure. Looking at the NFC, Eagles with Jalen Hurts maybe, or someone from the NFC North, Lions, Vikings, Packers. Pick one on whatever weekend. Yeah, Lions are missing guys to injury. So, and who are you gonna pick in a game? Sam Darnold or Patrick Mahomes? Which team, Hustler, would you pick if that was a Super Bowl matchup?
I'm a huge Sammy Darts guy. I've been riding the Vikings since the beginning of the season. I've got, and we'll get to Coolbet in a second, I've got futures for Darnold to be the comeback player of the year. I'm invested in KOC to be the coach of the year. Although, to be honest with you, maybe this is the year Andy Reid deserves a little bit of love for coach of the year. When you have good teams, you never really get considered. But, when you think they went through the whole season without Hollywood Brown, most of the season with Rashee Rice, Pacheco was gone for 10 or 11 weeks, and they just won. They just kept on winning. One loss on the season to the Bills. But in that AFC, Chiefs beat the Ravens. Ravens smashed the Bills. Bills beat the Chiefs. So something's got to give. Everyone's got their claim for it. And I don't know how good the wild card weekend will be based on some of the teams that are going to be making in that 6-7 spot. But that weekend of the final 8, the divisional matchups in the NFL heading into the conference championship weekend, is going to be absolutely amazing. Let's get to the Coolbet lines. And
Sure.
I guess while we're talking about the NFL, I will remind you that we've got a triple header tomorrow. The Chargers are taking on the Patriots. Chargers are 4.5-point favorites. The Broncos are 3-point underdogs in Cincy, and the Bills are 10-point favorites over the Jets. Eagles are 7.5-point favorites. Questions about Jalen Hurts' availability coming up on the weekend, and the Packer-Viking game is basically a pick'em right now. Minnesota's a 1-point favorite over Green Bay. Great Sunday nighter, Falcons Commanders. Washington 3.5-point faves, and then that Monday nighter, Detroit and San Francisco. We'll get to the hockey picks in the games tonight because there is a lot going on, but we don't have any Jets tonight. And I know Jets practice is just finished up. Remo, what are we hearing coming out of the rink today with the latest on the Jets after their first practice post-Christmas?
Yeah, Murat Atesh tweeting out the injury updates. Logan Stanley, a full participant today, but will be evaluated tomorrow to make sure he's good to go. Dylan Sandberg skated on his own and will likely do that for a while before returning to the group. Hayden Fleury is out week to week. And, we talked about the Jets lines and D pairings. In terms of D pairings, Logan Stanley with Dylan Coughlin, and then they swapped with Heinola. Murat asked Coach Arneal about that, and Scott Arneal said not to get caught up on who was on what pair when. Don't get caught up in that game when he asked. With 3 games and 4 nights, seems like we might get a couple looks, or at least tomorrow's pairings may not match the pairings from practice. So Scott O'Neill basically saying, you're talking about practice when asked about the pairings. You're talking about the pairings in practice?
David Gustafson was on one of the pairings. So
yeah,
you probably won't see Gus on the blue line at any point going forward. Tomorrow, 6 p.m., Jets and Sens as those teams get back to it. Tonight, though, Chicago's at Buffalo. And, Remo, how about like a little golf clap for the Sabres, who broke that 13-game losing streak by absolutely smashing the New York Islanders 7-1 on the 23rd. That was... You want to talk about a group that needed a bit of a Christmas gift. The Sabres players, the organization, the fans, that needed to happen. I did have to go. I will. You know what I like to do after these bad losses. I did make a point of going and hearing what Islanders head coach Patrick Waugh had to say about a 7-1 loss to a team that had lost 13 in a row and a few of the other guys on the Islanders. But they got a mulligan on that one because they just beaten the Leafs 6-3 the night before. Patrick Waugh did not explode as I was expecting that he would heading into Christmas.
No, there is a video on practice today from the Islanders as Patrick Waugh telling fans at an open practice the team isn't happy about their performance, but will work extremely hard to improve. And it was funny, the Jets, they played the afternoon on Monday, but there's so much drama around the league that day with the Sabres losing streak, Chris Kreider getting scratched, whatever is happening in Vancouver with JT Miller and Elias Paterson. But we didn't even mention Patrick Laine dumping all over the Blue Jackets, saying he wanted out of there because of the culture. And Zach Werenski saying after the game when they won and injured Laine, maybe intentionally, some were alleging that was a bullshit comment from Patrick Laine. So I love all this off-ice drama around the NHL. And you mentioned the Sabres losing streak and the fans bringing inflatable palm trees to the game after Kevin Adams, whining about how hard it was to bring players there. The off-ice has been fun.
Yeah, just on the Laine thing, most people know I am a massive, massive Laine fan. He looked terrible saying that. There was absolutely nothing to gain from it. And listen, I know Patrick, and we like his frankness and his honesty at times, but it was a bad look. And I don't blame Zach Werenski for a second for taking umbrage with it. And listen, I hope Patrick goes on and can score goals and help his team win games and maybe play a playoff game at some point again in his career. But I'll tell you what, this Blue Jackets team continues to take shots. They've got a very tough time building a team. Dean Evason's, I think, done a really good job right now, and they've been competitive. Now, they probably won't be a playoff team, but the guys that were there trying to make things work while Laine was off last year, doing whatever he was doing, I totally understand why they were pissed off about that, and it's too bad. Like sorry?
So they canceled the tribute video for Laine after he said what they didn't care about winning in Columbus.
No kidding.
Do I have the Werenski comments? Do you want me to play them or?
Yeah, if you've got them right there for people that probably haven't heard them.
So what? Patrick Laine, I guess they asked him why he wanted out of Columbus, and he said, they didn't care enough about winning, and when it's December, they're not, I guess, giving it their A game. Anyways, they asked Zach Werenski after the game on Monday, and here's what he had to say about that. Here's the comments.
It's unfortunate. I think as guys here and a guy that's been here, we're nothing but good teammates to him, nothing but good friends to him, and for him to bash us like that, I think it's just unacceptable. I hope he's all right with whatever he's dealing with tonight, but he didn't finish the game. A couple hits, and I don't know what happened, but it's unfortunate. We were nothing but good teammates to him. For him to come in here and say that's definitely not happy about it, and none of us in this room are happy about it, and I think that speaks more about him than it does us.
does, and I'll tell you what, that is the sort of thing that I think can rally a team, a downtrodden fan base about it. I mean, there is an element of, listen, there was no positive coming out of that for Laine, and while we like his candor at times, I mean, more it's kind of self-depreciating. You don't usually hear him say those sort of things, and I think by all accounts, he was treated incredibly well there. They tried to make it work, and then they did what he wanted to and got him a trade. So why are you pissing on them afterwards? It didn't make any sense. And as I say, big Laine fan, that was a tough look, and good on Werenski. The one other thing we should make, by the way, last call for marbles. I think pretty much everyone is done.
I do have the quote here. He just said, I feel like we were just doing the same thing year after year. I was tired of losing and just giving up when it's December to start focusing on next year. I'm not going to do that. That's frustrating when we're trying to win, and some people are, not like that. So just dumped all over the whole Blue Jackets organization.
I hate to say it, but start by looking in the mirror, pal. I mean, and I'm not looking to crush him. I want him to do well. The league is better when Patrick Laine is scoring goals, but I mean, you went from one bad team to another bad team, and it's great that he's been ripping power play goals because, I mean, no one has a shot like him, but there's a lot more to it, to being a complete player, to helping your team make the playoffs, to win in the playoffs, and I'm not sure he's totally gotten that so far. But I'll tell you what, if it did all click, there's all-world talent then that, we in Winnipeg probably know more than any. One other thing, Remis, we should talk to before we get to the marbles and finish up just tonight's slate for the Coolbet lines. Todd McClellan's back in the National Hockey League. Poor Derek Lalonde finished his turkey dinner, and then I got a call from Steve Yzerman telling him his services were no longer needed.
Yeah, I know. That was my thought. I was out. Was I at home? Was it yesterday I got the alert? I don't know if I was outside or enjoying, the Boxing Day. And I was like, man, it's during Christmas. Like, that's kind of crazy to let a guy go. But, Detroit hasn't really had a lot of success this year. They're out of a playoff spot. They don't play great, defensively. Has minus 23 goal differential, and you're bringing in a guy who I think can bring some structure to that team, and maybe they squeak into the last spot. It's tough. They haven't had the high draft picks. They haven't hit on some of them. It just hasn't gone well. And when you look at, you talk about, trying to tank and how it's a path to success, just look at Detroit and Buffalo, how long it's been for them, to try to get back in the playoffs. A number of teams as well who've been out for a long time. Ottawa has been out for a while. They seem to finally, looking like they're turning a corner. We'll look at them tomorrow. But big coaching change there. I don't know if I was too surprised, but it did stick out, Huss, that it was like Christmas, and it's like, Merry Christmas.
Detroit hasn't replaced a coach mid-season since the mid-'80s.
Crazy.
And it's only the second time ever since the Illiches have bought the team. So that's not the way they normally do it, but I think they're seeing what's happened with the Ottawa Senators.
Yep.
They're seeing what's happened with Buffalo, and realizing that, at this point, they probably need to make a change, and they'll do that. We'll see whether we get it. Anyways, why don't you grab everyone in for the marble race, and I'll just give you a quick rundown of the return to hockey tonight. The Bruins are in Columbus to take on those Blue Jackets. Boston minus 154, Columbus plus 130. Todd McClellan's going to make his debut as the Wings head coach, home to the Leafs, who lost 2 in a row heading into the break, including that beat down by the Jets on Monday. Wings plus 118, Leafs minus 139. The Devils are minus 135 favorites at home to the Hurricanes. That's a heck of a matchup between the two top two teams in the East. Central Division matchup, Wild at Stars. Wild decimated right now, and Kirill Kaprizov, their top dog, was not on the flight and will not be playing tonight. And that's why Dallas is a minus 200 favorite. Minnesota plus 168. The Predators and Blues minus 135. Blues plus 115. The Avalanche are in Utah. We mentioned earlier Mackenzie Blackwood with a 5-year extension at 5.25 for Colorado. Minus 139 for Colorado. Utah HC plus 118. And the final game of the night, the Vegas Golden Knights versus the San Jose Sharks. Vegas minus 250 favorites. Sharks plus 205 on the money line. As far as the World Juniors go, 2 games later on today, Sweden's a 6.5 goal favorite against the Kazakhs, and Canada minus 6.5, the goal line.
What? Is that football?
No. World Juniors, Remis.
Oh.
Sweden and Canada both favored to win by 6.5 goals. So, and like the Sweden game is there, it's minus 6.5, and the over/under for the game is 7.5.
Oh my God.
This is that second day of the tournament where there's a lot of, shall we say, unbalanced matchups once the Latvians and the Kazakhs get in there. Finland and Germany playing right now. Guess we don't have futures yet right now just because the tournament's off, but I'm sure those will pop back up. But we got it all. Oh, the one other thing that I did want to check out, we may as well do this right now just as we finish up. The playoffs for college football this weekend. And I'm looking at the, so what about, we got Penn State and Boise State. Penn State's a minus 11-point favorite. Texas at Arizona State, 13.5-point favorite. Ohio State, minus 2.5 over Oregon, who I believe is the number 1 team in it all. And then Notre Dame and Georgia. Cabillas will be ready for that one. Georgia, 2-point favorites over Notre Dame. So those are the 3 games. They're all, the Penn State, Boise State is on New Year's Eve, and then those other 3 games are on New Year's Day. So we've got a little time. Maybe we'll do a segment on that next week as we get closer to it.
What about tomorrow, the Pop-Tarts Bowl? Don't you want to see what's going to happen to the winner with the Pop-Tart?
Actually, that's a great point. And there have been a couple amazing bowl games so far. Did you watch that Toledo Pitt game yesterday? That went
no, I didn't watch
6 or 7 overtimes?
Was that what
amazing.
It was? No.
Yeah, there's been 2 6-overtime games right now in bowl season. And that one. And yesterday it was the Game Plus Bowl or something like that.
What about
no idea what it was.
How about the Snoop Dogg Arizona Bowl presented by Gin and Juice by Dre and Snoop, Miami, Ohio, and Colorado State tomorrow? I'm into all these bowl names, but I think the Pop-Tarts, I follow Pop-Tarts Bowl. I did see Dalton Schoen was at the bowl that Kansas State was at yesterday. They won.
Oh yeah,
and he was there. If you want your Bombers off-season update, what they're up to, he was interviewed on TV. He posted on Instagram story. I'm keeping up with everyone. I saw Nito Niederreiter went snowmobiling on. I got to follow the Instagram stories as we got to know what these players are up to. We need something to talk about when there's no games.
Well, Adam Lowry had a festive Bengals sweater on. I did see that.
Okay, well, I got to pull that up because we pulled up the clip. Hold on. And I saw Dominic Toninato took his child, captain of the Moose, took his children tobogganing yesterday.
Tobogganing. Maybe you would have seen them there.
I went tobogganing. That's what
Pulling
you got to
around
do.
Little kids.
Put them down the hill. We pushed them down. Let them fend for themselves. Although I went with one of my friends and his son. We went tobogganing, and as time went on, we started getting more and more extreme, thinking we were young again. Like, okay, now I'm going to try using the toboggan as a snowboard and go over this jump, which would, inevitably lead to injury. But you just can't help yourself when you're out there, Huss. You just want to make it more and more extreme. Here's Adam Lowry and his. Oh yeah, it's a nice Bengals sweater.
Yeah, probably just got that under the tree. There, Adam and his girlfriend or partner, and Banks, the dog, who, of course, is in the bobblehead this year. The Adam Lowry and Banks bobblehead.
Bobblehead. Speaking of bobbleheads, one of the Moose games Sunday, it's a Mickey Mouse bobblehead, Huss. So
I know.
I'm going to try to get one of those.
Yeah, definitely. Add to the collection. And there it is. Banksy And a very nice holiday photo from Lowry. My favorite holiday photos from the Jets were, though, congratulating Connor Hellebuck on that 5-2 win on Monday. All right, well, hey, it's Marbles time. For the final time in 2024, Remis, we need a little Tristan Rivers music to set the mood for the people.
Yeah, I was going to just pick the normal one just to send it off. Or should I or do the Christmas one once again?
Yeah, you know what? Right? Why don't we do that? Yeah, we've only got the 2 weeks to play the Christmas one. It was so good. Many people hadn't heard it before either.
Yeah, I forgot all about it. So we'll do the Christmas one. It's a couple of days late, but that's fine.
Before you stop to treat yourself, there's something you gotta do one more time. For the whole weekend, with no one even on the line. Zero effort left to give, except a 2:45. One more time, it's time to do a marble race. No skill separating best to worst. Marble race, just type marbles with the punctuation first. Marble race, don't spam unless it's Oleg's victory lap. Marble race, you do your mark, then that's a wrap. Ho, ho, ho.
Just kidding, that's lame. But we were all thinking that.
Set, go!
Epic Christmas theme of the marble race by the one and only Tristan Rivers music. All right, Reem, one more time if you can put me in. Do we have any other?
I just put you in. I didn't do anyone else.
Yeah, I think that there's not any obvious ones, and we want to give all the people with marbles that have joined us here the best chance to win.
Yeah, exactly. I think some people get mad when there's
when we're arbitrarily throwing multiple new marbles in. I mean, listen, sometimes we like to do it, but today, may the best marble win for the final marble of 2024. And of course, we've got a great WST hoodie, courtesy of our friends at Shipman Associates for the winner. So where are we going to go today?
Okay, I found this track. Fun, festive design. It is a holiday Christmas theme.
Like it. Is it a Dylan or?
No, it's not. I think I've used a lot of those.
Okay.
So I'll have to wait till they reset.
Through most of them.
We've been through a lot. This one was good. It has a good finish. It's got a good finish.
I love it. So the fun, festive design for the WST marble race. One more time in 2024. We will get this up. And again, wishing you all luck in this final marble race of the year. Because next Friday's marble race is going to be January, what is it, the 3rd? That's right. And yes, we will be here on Monday. Don't you worry about that. If we're here today, we're certainly going to be here on Monday because that's a game day. Jets, or it's wild first 2 days or final 2 days of the year. We'll have some best of, if you will. And then, of course, 2 big games. Nashville at home, Colorado on the road before New Year's Day. All right, here we go. One more time in 2024. The award-winning WST marble race. It's the fun, festive design. Good luck to everyone. Let's drop it. Long run into a funnel. I like these starts, Reem.
Yes, this is a good one. All right, here we go. I'm dropping them.
Here we go. The big turn. Oh, yeah, a little Christmas tree. Nicely done. Okay, who's Stonewall Dave, Les Thompson, and Vince right at the front, but it's very, very tight. Oh, wow, yes, Christmas trees all through it.
Yeah, you got lights, you got the thing at the top. Yeah, it looks good.
Cigars for everyone. Got, actually. I believe that is bye-bye. Yep, so Stonewall Dave is back in first place, although Todd got bounced. Oh, my God. Look at Todd negotiate that. Todd Fertani on one side, Stonewall Dave on the other. People are getting bounced up and down. Daniel Patrick Waugh. He's out. Okay, so Stonewall Dave. What is that one? Philandrian Fiend? Johnny Bender? We've had a few people. Transcona Logan now in first place, going down the stairs with a slight lead. Bobby B and Scott Westman just got top roped one more time in 2024. Sorry, guys. And so did Toronto Sports Network 243. Transcona Logan, Todd Fertani. Oh, this is where they get on the wheel. Okay.
Yeah, wild finish here coming up once they all fall at the same time onto this last couple obstacles.
Yes.
Anyone's game, Huss.
I think I'm actually in the mix. I thought I saw my name, like not quite top 10, but.
Okay, here it comes. I think once it gets to like 9 o'clock on this wheel.
Boom, Transcona Logan, drop. Everyone's coming in. It's just who's going to make it first. Oh, Todd Fertani. Todd is in. Oh, it just rolled right through that snowflake and first in. This could be a first ever win for our pal Todd Fertani. And I did say Merry Christmas to all, even Raider fans, on my Christmas holiday tweet, and I was speaking of Todd, who is a Raider fan. He's been through a lot this year. This would be a great way to end the season. Who's going to get out first? It's not Todd. It's Jay Vince. Jay Vince. Stem. Todd's coming out now, but it looks like Jay Vince is... Oh, no. He's coming back. Stem at the end. What happened to Jay Vince?
What happened there?
Put in rewind or something like that. Wow.
I've never seen that. It's like he didn't want to go
got
to the
the
finish.
end. It just went backwards.
That was wild.
So Stem number 1, Jay Vince 2, Dan S 3, Ken 0074, Puckin Hoots 5, Al Broderick. What's up, Al? Michelle Hart. Hi, Michelle. Voice of Fire, The Power, and Spency with a top 10 finish. All right, everybody else is coming down.
Jay Vince in chat says no way.
Fertani, I thought you had that. And to use a Raiders analogy, that was sort of like that last Raider-Chief game when you guys were right there, ready to kick the winning field goal, and then the snap went awry.
Yeah.
But it was a very, very good run. Okay, so there was our top 10. Who else do we have here? Kevin Kowalik, Transcona Logan, Krugs. Todd ended up finishing 15th. There's Wayne Bretzky, Mary Jane, Mark Amf, Hustler, yes. Top 25, I will take it. There's Paul Carr and Dallas Pauls. Fighting Fire Hydrant, holy smoly. There's Leslie Mitchnook. What's up, Leslie? Rob Pepper, JDSN, Drew Music, Mike Lay, Accountant to the Stars. Our pal, Mike was fired up on Monday after that win. I know that. There's T. Konopoli, AJ, there's Ross. Nicely done, Roscoe. Andrew Haleko. Les Thompson. D. Sizzle. T. Will, Louis Davis, and Rick Benson. And then everybody else that was not able. Oh, Amanda. Amanda going for her 3 wins in 2024. It just didn't happen.
A lot of comments us about Jay Vince. Did he pull the Patrick Steffen there at the finish line, or was it more like Jonathan Taylor dropping the ball outside the end zone?
That was, speaking of Jonathan Taylor and the dropping the football before you go into the end zone, did you hear that the godfather of that move, Deshaun Jackson, is going to be a head coach of a college football team this year?
I did not hear that.
I think he's going to like Delaware State. Mike Vick and Deshaun Jackson both going to be head coaches next year in college football. Who would have thunk it? There you go. One more time. So STEM, give us a email, winnipegsportstech@gmail.com. Let me know when you're, what size you are for the hoodie. And I'll fire you an email and we'll get you set up at some point next week. Remo, what a bizarre week. A show, a 10 a.m. show on a Monday, 3 days off. Great feedback, by the way, for the holiday special. If you have not yet seen it, Rick Bonus, Dennis Bayak, Brent Fitz, some great comments on it. That's up on the page. And then one show and right back into a weekend and a big game tomorrow.
Yeah, as I said, yesterday felt like a Sunday where I'm having dinner. I'm like, yeah, getting ready for a long week of work here. Oh, wait, no, it's actually Friday and it's the weekend. So it was kind of nice. Had a couple days off. We did the pre-recorded show on Tuesday. I did spend my day in the chat. Did get some nice super chats, actually, even though we weren't there. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, great couple days here off with the family. Looking for another great weekend. And we'll have New Year's Day off next week as well. So exciting stuff here. Hopefully the Jets can pull it a win. Talk about it all on Monday. And I guess Monday is the prime game against Nashville.
Against the Preds, off-season champions in town. We'll have to discuss what the hell's gone wrong with that team so far this year. And yes, in Ticona Poly, Tuke, Saturday night. Brent Fitz in town. Grab tickets if you can.
We got a lot of comments about that interview with Brent Fitz, the stories that he had, the names that he were dropping. I know Gregory Liverpool's like Tuke's biggest fan now. He's like, what's this band? And then is messaging me saying, oh, I love this music. This is amazing. So, making a couple new fans as well as hearing some great stories.
Yeah, Greg, as I said, I've got the game and then I'm going to a party right afterwards. So I'm not able to go, but next time Tuke's playing here, we'll get you down there. You will certainly enjoy it. That is going to do it for us today, folks. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the game tomorrow. All the NFL action and football and more. We will be back at 1 p.m. on Monday with the latest on the Jets, both game tomorrow and their Amazon Prime matchup on Monday night against the Nashville Predators. And, of course, then the next day, quick trip out to Denver, take on the Avs and ring in the new year. Thanks again to all of our sponsors and everyone that joined us live today. Shout out to everyone listening on the podcast as well. Have a wonderful weekend and continued happy holidays. We will see you Monday, 1 o'clock right here on WST. Adios.
Oh, my God! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.